Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my girlfriend wants me to leave my amazing job. I'm 26 male and she's 26 female. We've been together for 6 years. We're pretty happy, but as we get older, we're having more serious conversations about the future before we commit long term. I come from a lower middle class family and her family is millionaires. In college, we were long distance. I worked hard. I paid for my rent and tuition. I took 7 classes a semester and I worked 2 jobs, 40 plus hours a week. Her parents paid for her to go to a good school, but she mostly just smoked every day. I did this to pay my bills, but also to pay for our vacations. About half my annual income went to flights and vacations so that we could see each other. She didn't want to ask her parents for money because they were already paying for so much. Now, she's always been clear about her expectations for us. She said she was with me because she loved me and was frank with me that if she was in it for my money, that she would be with someone else. I believe it because when we first met, I was broke and I had nothing to offer. Well, fast forward to after college. We both have great jobs working remotely. I'm in tech sales and I make about $85,000 a year. She's making roughly the same amount. I've been in my current job for about 4 years. It was my first job out of college, and honestly, I love it. I work about 10 hours per week, and I hit all of my numbers. My coworkers and managers are amazing. I've grown so much professionally because they train us so well. I love life for the first time in a while. If you don't know a lot about sales, it's a very tough job market right now. Even if you're lucky enough to get hired, it's very possible you'll get laid off quickly. In the tech sales world, 4 years at a company is a serious accomplishment. If you don't hit your numbers or the company is struggling, then you're gone. Typically, it's true that switching jobs is the best way to increase your salary, but in sales, it actually looks really good on your resume if you've stayed at a company for a while. My girlfriend says I need a different job because I'm not motivated or challenged enough, and that I should have higher salary goals and higher career ambitions. She's putting her money where her mouth is because she wants to make $100K so bad. She really wants those promotions, and she works 50 plus hours a week and is always thinking about work, so it doesn't seem worth it to me. I know there will be a time where I need to step it up, but why not just enjoy the job I have now until I inevitably get fired? I'm lucky to have a job right now anyway. No amount of pay can replace work-life balance. I think I would regret it if I moved on. I think I could be working harder to get better promotions, but I'll just do that at my next job. How do we proceed from here? I honestly don't get all the reactions in support of your girlfriend. I think you would be crazy to leave this job. You work only 10 hours for the same salary she works 50 hours for. That's amazing. Why would you want to leave a job like that? To work more hours for the same money? Life is more than work. Is she perhaps jealous? I would stay at this job for as long as you can. Just make sure you're smart with your money and save up for when maybe one day you do get fired. Don't be fooled into becoming a slave for money just so you can hit some magical number. I think it's inconsiderate to expect something like that from you. If you're happy, that's what matters. Success is not always measured by how much you earn or what your job title is. Your current position would be great for a secondary income earner and stay-at-home dad. If it would be hard to get back into it, I wouldn't leave. If she's already working 50 plus hours a week and wants you to do the same, it will impact the quality of your time together. Is she pushing you because she doesn't like who you are at this job? Or because she wants you to match her ambition? OP. The latter. I think we'll actually end up making around the same in the next 5 years. Sales has a very high ceiling. But honestly, sales is weird because it's about timing, territory, and talent in that order. Even if you work your butt off, you can still fail. I've seen it happen so many times. I figured I'd have the rest of my career to suffer. Might as well enjoy the benefits I have now. She values ambition. She was attracted to you in college because you showed hustle. Maybe she misses that. Got any hobbies or home projects that could remind her that you still have drive? She might lay off the job concerns if she can see you pouring your drive into another area. Preferably something that affirms to her that you want to build a life with her. Money is part of that, but it's not all of it. OP. I think you're right on that last part. It's about my overall drive and demeanor. Maybe we have a difference in values. Nice house, nice car, those things are nice. But mostly what I want is a nice amount of savings and my peace of mind. Maybe that's where we differ. I don't find meaning in titles or material items. I think I've put up with it for so long because I question whether my life would be better with those things. Maybe I could push myself more, but at the end of the day, those things don't drive my spirit. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. Bruh, working 10 hours a week and making $85K is like the greatest blessing you could ever ask for. She should be happy for you, bro. My best friend might be in love with my husband. Where do I go from here? I know he isn't cheating on me. He's at home more often than not, and I have full access to his electronics, as does he to mine. My husband and I have been together since we were young teenagers. We got married last year, and we have a 6-month-old daughter together. She's the light of both of our lives, as we both come from broken homes, and we want a better life than we did growing up. My best friend came a few years later. We used to live in the same neighborhood and casually began to hang out. She lives with both her parents and siblings as she is studying to get her bachelor's degree. At first, she didn't like my husband, said that he was clingy, and tried to insert himself into our friendship. She was civil to him because he was my romantic partner. For context, my husband is bipolar type 2, autism, and PTSD, and it causes him to be a little socially awkward and miss certain social cues and taboos. I love him regardless of it all. Over the last few years, we've been hanging out a lot more. She comes over for a few drinks, we go to the movies, and even visit local attractions together. We all three have a good time, and my husband does try to make nights for just the two of us, too. However, last year, my husband and I found out we were expecting a baby together in January. I was working and I fell ill because at the time, I was working at a fast food place. I threw up and I went to the doctor. Come to find out, I was 8.5 weeks pregnant. My life changed and I had become more busy to get myself ready for motherhood. My best friend saw me less and less and we couldn't talk as much. My husband and I got married almost a month and a half after discovering we were going to become parents. That's when our dynamic changed. Recently, I applied to school and I'm currently in college trying to get a law degree so I can become a paralegal and go to law school. I'm also a stay-at-home mom while doing college too. I've been super busy. One day, my husband gets a text and it's from my best friend. She asks if they can talk as she was upset. He took the phone call with me protesting and a few minutes later said, "Sandra, we need to go pick up Carla. Her father is picking a fight with her." I got upset as we were watching a movie together and I had just gotten the baby down for bed. We go to her house, which is about 20 minutes away, and she stays with us for a night. As I get our daughter back down to bed, Carla asks to cuddle with the two of us in our bed. I was hesitant. I have issues with claustrophobia. My husband gave the go-ahead. We settle in for the night. Carla's dad apologized and she heads back home. Once she was gone, I blew up on my husband. What he did not only was inappropriate, but it was disrespectful to my boundaries. Ever since, when she has an issue with her dad, she calls my husband and Vince. One day, while my in-laws were staying with us, my mother-in-law overheard a conversation with my hubby and Carla. She was concerned and asked me if I was okay with it. I said, no, not really, but every time I bring it up, he gets defensive, saying that she needs help, that she's going through a hard time, blah, blah, blah. It's important to note that my mother-in-law was cheated on in the past by her ex, my husband's father. We are also extremely close, and she sees me as a daughter. She hates cheaters with a passion, and my husband, who I'll refer to as James, was using the same excuses his father did. She asked to speak to him privately and walked to our living room. They got into a heated match, and James apologized to me. He said he didn't know it was hurting me and causing issues in our marriage. I asked him, how would he feel if I had asked him if another man could have cuddled with us? He kind of deflated and tried to say, it's different, blah, blah, blah. His stepfather, Mark, spoke up and said, it's the same. You're uncomfortable with it, so is she. Quit the excuses. James respects Mark quite a lot, actually. Mark raised him since he was 8, and his own father was in and out of the picture. Once the dust settles, my husband truly apologized to me for his actions and said that he would do better. I kissed him, and that was that. However, I wouldn't be right here if that was the end of the issue. Lately, Carla has been calling him 3 to 8 times a day. She says it's because she's bored and has no one else to talk to. I snap. I call him out over the nonchalance about the situation, how it's making me feel like a third wheel in my own marriage, etc. His response, she's just lonely. You're letting it get to you. That night, I slept in the living room. I'm starting to suspect that she's trying to monopolize his time. She calls him for over an hour each time they talk. She complains about her life, etc. almost like she is his girlfriend or something. I'm starting to find their relationship troubling. It's getting to the point that it's affecting my marriage. Where do I go from here? Any advice would be appreciated. Edit. I'm going to have a talk with him, with his mom involved. He won't listen to me if I don't. I'm tired of fighting him over this. I should have an update with a resolution in a few days. I'm going to read all the responses more thoroughly. Edit 2. My husband and I have had a sit-down talk. His mother and stepfather weren't available. He promised me that he would explain everything in detail. I called Carla, and she said we could talk Friday when she wasn't busy with school. She had something she needed to air out. I'll have an update on Friday, hopefully. Edit 3. I woke up to a text from Carla this morning. She actually wants to talk to me tonight, alone, as her schedule has changed. We're going to have a heart-to-heart. Hopefully I'll have some news. Edit 4. I need some time. I'll post an update later. My heart is hurting. Hubby and I are getting a divorce. Thank you for understanding, everybody. Update. Baby and I are currently staying with my friend Tanya. To start, James and I are getting a divorce. Carla is no longer a friend to me or our mutuals. The betrayal is too deep for her to be friends with our group. As most of you assumed, James and Carla are indeed having an affair. It started about 3 months ago and just turned physical 1 month ago. They were planning on just up and leaving after James served me divorce papers. They used the ruse that he was helping her through emotional issues to hide the fact. I was crushed. She wanted to clear the air before it got worse. That was when she dropped a huge bombshell. James was going to try and get me to terminate my rights to my kid in order for Carla to adopt her. The reason? My borderline diagnosis a few years ago made me unfit to be a mother, and he was sure that the courts would agree. She then handed me 2 separate stacks of paperwork and left. I'm contacting a lawyer as I'm writing this. I was seriously hurt. You guys were right. Carla was a snake and only told me this so she wouldn't feel guilty. However, I'm not letting my soon-to-be ex-husband bully me into termination of my rights. I called him afterwards and got very heated about what was going on. James just sat there in silence. I was crying afterwards. I pleaded with him to tell me what I did wrong. For a bit of backstory, I had a near-fatal complication with my delivery of our daughter where I bled my entire labor. I had to have 2 blood transfusions and haven't fully recovered from it. I was not cleared for any extraneous activity for 3 months, including hooking up. James was getting unsatisfied with all of my doctor's appointments and not hooking up like he wanted to. I was hurting and ended up needing another procedure to remove some placenta that didn't naturally come out. I had to have my tubes tied because if I had another baby, it would result in my life. James wanted at least 2 more kids, and this put an end to his plans. I married a monster. After all the years we've been together, this is how he repays me? I thought I knew him. He was acting so caring and so nice to me. I'm absolutely heartbroken. I'm not even sure if I'm going to update this anymore, but if I do, it'll be after the divorce settles. Thanks for your concerns. I'm going to step back and take some time to adjust. There's no chance for a healthy co-parenting situation. I'm fighting for primary custody with supervised visits. Carla will not have any access to our baby, as I'll ask the judge to make a clause preventing her from interacting with my daughter. Thanks for all the advice. Edit. I forgot to add that I contacted his mother and Mark this morning. They're furious that James is doing this to me. They're helping me foot the cost of a lawyer because I'm a stay-at-home mom and a college student. They've kicked James out, and he's now staying at our old house with Carla. He did give me the courtesy to get my stuff and didn't put up a fuss about me taking what I wanted. He told me that he will keep in contact for divorce proceedings. Am I the jerk for telling my brother he's an idiot for wanting a paternity test? I, 20 male, have a brother, Jack, who's 29, who's married to his wife, Amy, who's 26. About 2 years ago, they had their first baby, Lisa. On our side of the family, we all look exactly alike. Both of our parents have brown hair and brown eyes. So do me and Jack. Amy, on the other side, is from Norway and looks very different. She has blonde hair and blue eyes and generally has a very Scandinavian look to her, opposed to our very American look. So to what I thought was no one's surprise, of course Lisa got features from her mom. They look pretty much identical, and it seems like they look more alike as time passes on. This was all fine from my understanding. I don't know why it even would be a problem. But about 1 year ago, my brother started telling me about how his coworker has a daughter that looks like the female version of him. He said that everyone said that the firstborn, especially if it's a daughter, is the spitting image of their father. I did not find that weird, as I had heard that before, but I think it's kind of obvious that genetics works weird and in different ways. and what is common is not always what happens to everyone. I told him just that genetics works in surprising ways sometimes. However, as time went on, he started saying more stuff like this, like asking me where I thought Lisa got her blonde hair from, which obviously was from Amy. He did this with other stuff, like the nose, the eyes, the little mannerisms Lisa has. It was extremely obvious it was from Amy, which I always told him. Now, I found out that he's demanding that they take a paternity test, as he's extremely sure that Lisa is not his. Amy is extremely distraught by this and has tried to explain to him that Lisa is his, that she just got stuff from Amy and that happens. He's threatening her with divorce if she doesn't agree to a paternity test, as that would be his confirmation that she cheated. She got to our parents' house and broke down, telling us all of this. Our parents have texted him and called him. I have too, but he's now angry with us too because we are taking a cheater side, his words. She and Lisa are staying with us, and she's extremely confused on where all this is coming from. So I called my brother yesterday, and this time he picked up the phone. I managed to have a conversation with him and asked him why, if he had any evidence that Amy ever did cheat, or why he thought so. He basically told me that he did not have any evidence, but he knew and was 100% sure on that. I asked him why and how. He told me that firstborn daughters always behave, look, and are a carbon copy of their father, but Lisa is not even remotely like that. I was getting angry at him because it just seemed so weird to even come to that conclusion. I told him that he was an idiot for all of this and that he will regret all of it later on. He hung up and is even madder at all of us, saying that Amy has manipulated us all and that we can't crawl back to him when the truth is out. I don't think she's going to react well when I tell her all of this. However, my parents are saying that it was extremely unnecessary of me to behave like this when I got to talking to him, as this may have been our chance to have a mature and serious conversation with him. So, am I the jerk for how I reacted? Not the jerk. Your brother is dumber than a box of rocks. Or this could be a mental crisis brought on by some unacknowledged insecurities that he has. Either way, I don't think there's anything wrong with how you reacted. This is why paternity tests should be mandatory at birth, wherever possible. No mother will ever doubt if she is the biological mother of her baby, barring extreme circumstances. Yet, fathers can have no security in that belief whatsoever. In cases like this, with some type of insecurity or mental illness from the father, it escalates to this point. Just test at birth, and it's no problem. No, they shouldn't. Society shouldn't cave to delusion and paranoia or operate with the assumption of female guilt. If that were made law, I wouldn't breed with any man that refused to sign a waiver forfeiting it. There is no downside to routine paternity testing, literally none to either mother, father, or the baby. All it does is give fathers and kids the same gift that the mother gets naturally, certainty about parentage. And even if you don't give the tiniest hoot about men or the babies, there's no reason to deny this kindness to 2 out of the 3 people involved in a childbirth. None. Only a nastiness and disinterest in the welfare of others where you can't see a benefit for yourself. I've only just realized that I let the men I call my family and friends ruin my marriage. I've been divorced for almost 2 years, and a few weeks ago, my father, who's 67, my 2 brothers, who are 37 and 40, and my 4 friends, while very drunk, joked about how they can't believe I left my wife. They said that they all tried to get with her since the divorce, but she had repeatedly rejected them, saying it would be inappropriate and unkind to do such a thing to me. I laughed at what they were saying just to ease them into saying more, and once they thought I found it funny, they really opened up. They had all purposely made me feel paranoid about my ex-wife cheating on me and using me, because why would a woman like her be with a man like me if it wasn't for the money I made? They often hinted at, or sometimes even directly said, that she wore the pants in the relationship and that she was only with me because I'm easily manipulated. They constantly planted negative things into my mind. If I went to talk with them about something happening in my relationship, they would put a negative twist to it, or they'd purposely give me bad advice. Then when I lost my job during lockdown, they all hinted at how she's definitely cheating now that there's no financial benefit in being faithful to me. I obviously trusted them and often took their words to heart, and it ruined my marriage. I frequently argued with my wife, and I was always accusing her of something or suspecting her of not loving me. I questioned everything that was between us. I often told her BS things like how I'm a high-value man and that she needed to appreciate me. And when I was not working for 6 months, I flipped the script and started accusing her of not respecting me for not working. I was unappreciative of all of her hard work and for being the one who took care of our household bills and any other bills during those 6 months of unemployment. I continued to let their words drive me into paranoia, and I started accusing her of cheating with her coworkers. Eventually, my wife had had enough of my moods, constant mistrust, and accusations. She left me, and to be honest, for a long time, it felt like it came out of nowhere, and so I had myself convinced she left me for another man. Now here I am, knowing that every man I've called my family and my friends were all my enemies who I let destroy my marriage. I obviously lost my mind once they were done telling me all the ways they conspired to ruin my marriage, and we got into a huge fight. I've cut off all contact with each and every one of them. I want to reach out to my ex and make amends and hopefully get her back. My ex-wife has agreed to meet up with me, and she doesn't know exactly what I want to discuss with her, and I don't know how to go about making amends and hopefully mending our relationship. How do I tell her how much I regret everything and that I want to give her a second chance? Is there even a chance for us? Edit. Some of y'all keep saying, you took the words of your friends over your wife, and I don't think that's a fair, complete assessment. I trusted my father and brothers. My father was the main driving force behind this manipulation campaign, and it's not often that your entire family is conspiring against you. And not only your family, but also your friends. I'm not running away from accepting the fact that it's wholly my fault and how my marriage ended. I take ownership of that. I take ownership of the fact that I accused my wife of being a cheater or a user. I regret it all. If my ex-wife doesn't accept my apology, I would accept it gracefully. If she said she never wanted to talk to me or ever get back together, I'd also accept that. I would not stand in the way, and I would not try to change her mind. I would wish her well and leave her be. That relationship is dead, dude, and you killed it. Sure, meet up and explain everything you learned and apologize for your wrongs, but besides closure, I don't think you should expect anything more. Am I the jerk for telling my wife's friend that she's married after seeing a text exchange where they were flirting? My wife, Amber, has always had trouble with her confidence in making friends. As much as I try to encourage her to get out, she was just never comfortable getting too close to anyone. I was actually pretty excited when she first met Bill, 45 male, at work. She came home happy, telling me she actually made a friend and that she hopes she doesn't scare this one off. I reassured her that she's awesome and has nothing to worry about. Where things took a turn was just a few days ago when I saw a text thread between them that was becoming extremely flirty. He would say things like, "I really like you. I hope to be able to be more than friends one day." And she had mixed responses from just a simple thank you to things like, "We will have to see when one day comes. Evil face, heart face." How I stumbled across these messages was when I couldn't find the remote, I saw her phone on the coffee table and knew it had the remote app. I grabbed it, unlocked it, and found her messages open to someone named Stacy. I didn't know who Stacy was, so out of curiosity, I took a look, thinking she made another work friend. But I found the flirting and the name change instead. I confronted her after the kids went to sleep. She kept insisting that it was innocent, and the name change was only because she knew I'd be upset and freak out. I expressed to her I can understand how outside compliments can make someone feel good, but there was a line that was crossed when no matter how innocent it was, she lied and did what I considered cheating. I asked her if she had told Billy that she was married, and she admitted she hadn't, but she would clear things up the following morning at work. That evening, I asked her if she told Bill. She said she did and that the flirting was over, but the next day she was reclusive and on her phone a lot. I checked our carrier's log because I had a feeling the whole truth wasn't being told, and I saw Bill was the only person she was talking to. So I got his number from the log and I called him. I asked him if he knew Amber was married, and he was clueless and polite. He said he isn't a homewrecker and that he would cut off communication, that it never went beyond text, etc. Honestly, pretty good guy, all things considered. Well, this sent my wife over the edge, and she's now on her way to her parents to stay the night, saying that I was controlling for not allowing her to have a male friend. I told her I was fine with it until she changed his name in her phone and started flirting, that it was lying and cheating at that point. So Reddit, am I wrong? Edit. No rings allowed on the job due to safety rules. Didn't think that would be an issue when she started a few months back. Edit 2. I would typically agree she would be at some other dude's house in a post like this, but we have Life 360, and I saw her arrive at her parents' place. Not the jerk. She knew what she was doing was wrong and had crossed the line. Trying to hide what was going on by changing the contact name and not bothering to tell the dude she was married is proof, positively, that she was making a concerted effort to get closer to him while hiding it. The whole "you're being controlling" or "you're being manipulative" is in itself many times used when trying to control the narrative. So yeah, it was probably emotional cheating, so don't go crawling back. Am I the jerk for getting genuinely angry following the cruel prank my friends pulled on me? I'm totally ready to be made fun of for this, but I strongly believe in the paranormal. And one thing in particular that freaks me out to my core is mimicry. A spirit or an entity taking on human traits or the appearance of a loved one to mess with you or lure you in. That kind of stuff gives me nightmares, and it's something my friends are very aware of given how much I yap about it. Last week, I was staying over at our friend's place, along with a few more people. We'd been hanging out together that evening and were too drunk to safely go home, so we slept there. In the middle of the night, something woke me up, and while I was still dazed and confused, I noticed one of my friends standing in the corner of the guest room. He was staring at me with a neutral demeanor, standing unnaturally still, and started whispering complete nonsense at me. Jumbled words forming meaningless sentences, genuinely very creepy and eerie. I could hardly breathe and I was just frozen. I couldn't believe what was happening. I was still under the effects of alcohol and had literally just woken up, and this felt like a surreal nightmare. After a bit, he started walking in a very robotic way to the bedroom door, never taking his eyes off of me, and left the room. That kind of made me snap out of my frozen state, and I started considering it was a prank. I got up and rushed out, only to see him sleeping on the couch. However, there were two girls awake in the kitchen, chatting quietly, that would have definitely seen him get up. But when I asked, they said they didn't see anything. I started freaking out that moment, just locked myself in the guest room and barely managed to sleep. I was terrified of that thing coming back. In the morning, I was eager to tell everyone what happened to me, which I did. They all listened attentively until the end, when they told me it was just a joke. He was acting, and the girls had lied. They were just messing with me. I just stood there without saying a word, then went to pick up my things and go. I was about to leave when one of the girls from the previous night blocked the door and told me to chill out, that I was overreacting. I mumbled something like, "Get out of my way, you lying jerk," and she did. As I walked back home, I realized I was crying. When I got home, I checked my phone. I had tons of messages about me overreacting, going too far, calling her a name, making too big a deal out of a simple prank. Some time has passed, and I feel bad about my reaction, but part of me feels like I was justified. I think it wasn't that unfair of a reaction to learning my friends had used my beliefs against me while I was vulnerable, just to get a good chuckle. Edit. I feel a need to explain my beliefs. While I don't consider myself Native American, I do have a lot of Native ancestry and family, and most of what my family has passed down from that culture are those legends and tales of creatures and spirits. Growing up, I was told those stories a lot and always had a fascination for them, as well as respect and fear for the things they spoke of. If you find it dumb, so be it, but it's how I was raised and part of my culture. Not the jerk. Making a prank using someone's worst fears is an extremely bad idea. A prank is only successful if it makes everyone laugh. The goal is not to scare people to death. I'm not scared of ghosts, and I would have been terrified. This prank was just mean, and it was too long. I, male 24, made a Word document with all of the rules of Valentine's Day, and now my girlfriend, who's 23, is upset. I've been with my girlfriend for a year. We began our relationship in October. When February of the next year came around, she told me that I had to ask her to be my Valentine. I thought it was a bit odd since we were already in a relationship, but I still asked her anyway, another day by text. 2 days before Valentine's, she calls me crying because apparently I didn't ask her right. Apparently, you have to do it in person or else it doesn't count. I didn't even know Valentine's Day had rules so specific, but I stepped in to fix it anyway. I visited her a day before Valentine's, brought her a small gift, and asked her to be my Valentine. All good. Now, a year later, I remembered that I have to ask her to be my Valentine. What I didn't remember is that it needs to be in person. She was sad that I didn't remember, so I stepped in again and fixed it. Picked her up from work and gave her a small gift, asking her in person. Valentine's Day rolls in. I buy her 5 yellow flowers that I thought looked pretty, and a book that she likes but couldn't get. Everything on that date seemed all right. She seemed happy. A week later, this Sunday, she told me that she needed to talk to me, so we planned to talk on Monday night as soon as I came home from college. I called her and she was crying. She told me that I should have remembered how I had to ask her to be my Valentine from last year, how the flowers were the wrong color, How the flowers didn't even look like romantic flowers and just some flowers with a few leaves that I plucked from somewhere. How I should have given her a gift that was actually waiting to be received instead of what I did. At the end, I just said that I'll do better. To be honest, I didn't even know Valentine's Day was so complicated. I didn't know there were so many specific rules and restrictions about what to do and what to gift. I had to ask her to be my Valentine, but only if it's before Valentine's Day and only if it's in person. I have to give her flowers, but only if they are red and only if they look like a romantic flower arrangement. I have to give her a gift, but only if it's a gift that she's previously mentioned she wants, and only if it can be showed to her mom. What on earth? I'm just trying to be a good boyfriend. Where does she get all of these specific rules and restrictions? Is this like a normal thing that women expect? Where do they learn all this from? From romantic comedies and Instagram reels? I'm not trying to be a jerk. I just want to know where I can read the rules of all this stuff. This might sound like I don't love her. I do love her and she makes me super happy. I'm just tired of being told that I'm doing things the wrong way. I really thought that being romantic was about the intention, not the action within a list of parameters. So today I made a Word document in which I wrote every detail that I remembered. I know it's kind of weird, but I really needed to have all of these Valentine's Day rules written down somewhere. I don't want her to call me again crying because I forgot to wear the appropriate shoes or because the flowers didn't have the correct number of petals. I sent her the Word document so she can verify that all the rules are written clearly, and she just got more upset because this doesn't feel right. I don't understand how to do better. I'm a woman, and even the most romantically inclined women I know don't do this level of rules around Valentines. Entitled Mom has a problem with me volunteering at the hospital. Cast. We've got Entitled Mom, we've got the nice kid, we've got Medical Assistant Mom, and me. Backstory. I volunteer at my local VA medical center. I used to do it at first just to see what it was like. Now I enjoy it. I signed up for a clinical and administrative job for different days, and I enjoy both of them. Both of my parents work in the medical industry, one of them being on the front line of what's going on. I went shopping so I don't go too insane from being stuck at home. Those who have badges from working in a hospital can invite more people, 2-person max, and even get a discount. Me, knowing that I volunteered at a hospital, decided to do an experiment. My parents and I came with our badges and masks on, and we were all let in. Everything was normal. We were just shopping and talking about our garden. My mom and I were asked to get frozen fruit because I like to mix fruit in with my protein shakes until the gates of heck have opened. Right when I turn around with my frozen strawberries, maskless Entitled Mom stops me right in my tracks and eyes my volunteer badge. Entitled Mom, shouldn't you be at home? Me, why are you asking me this? You're a volunteer. You shouldn't be out here. Me, neither should you. You're not wearing a mask. Nonetheless, following the distancing rule. At least I have a paying job. That's when it hit me. Me, are you saying that I shouldn't be here because I'm not getting paid for what I do? Exactly. You are exploiting the benefits of working in a hospital. Let the real workers have their benefits. Me, I don't need a paycheck for working in a hospital. It's something I enjoy doing. That'll change soon. Medical Assistant Mom turns around, seeing a strange woman in my face, so she approaches us, hoping to dissolve the quarrel. I can sense the mama bear in her already. My mom, I'm sorry, but what's going on? Entitled Mom, finally, actual medical personnel. Can you tell this poser to get the heck out of here? Well, hopes of dissolving it peacefully have gone out the window. My mom, excuse me, you cannot tell my daughter that. Sneaky Intellion can count as medical personnel as she also works with patients. Does she come in contact with patients with that horrid disease? Me, thinking, playing that card? Me, the volunteering season is closed until it dies down. See? She is a deadbeat. What kind of parent are you, letting your kid be entitled? You ought to scold her. Me, coming from a Karen. My mom and Entitled Mom's kid laughed. She gets in my face and yells at me. I don't know who you are, but you better not disrespect your adults. If you love your mother so much, then take that badge off and get the heck out of here. Entitled Mom leaves, but her kid stays behind. Nice kid. Hey man, sorry about that. My mom is just scared because of what's going on. She saw you with your mom, and she got angry and wanted to check to see if you should be here or not. Personally, I like that you volunteer at a hospital. Me. Thanks. You should try volunteering at the VA when the season opens. Nice kid. Maybe I will sometime. Nice kid leaves to go catch up with her mom. After that, my mom and I return to the cart with the frozen berries. I've met Karens before, but that's because they hate me for having colored hair, liking anime, or listening to metal. Never have I ever had an encounter as bad as this. Landlord refuses to pay me back my deposit, ends up regretting it after I take him to court. Back in 2018, I had a temporary internship in California at a large tech company, so I took a recommendation from a friend about a room for rent. It would be living with 5 other people, but otherwise it looked fantastic with spacious common areas, multiple huge TVs, huge amenities, community rec center with a pool, short drive times to multiple places of interest, all for $650 a month, utilities included. I contacted the landlord. He seemed fine on the phone, so I sent him my security deposit to move in a month later. When it came time to move in, I discovered a few caveats that came with this low rent price. The common areas were all dusty. None of the 3 large TVs worked properly. If we wanted access to the rec center and pool, we'd need to pay the $80 a month membership fee, and all of the short drive time estimates were exaggerated, unless you were speeding at 2 times the speed limit. Whatever, it's not the end of the world, especially at the relatively low price. I'll survive. But then it got worse in the coming months. Landlord decided to charge us an extra $20 a month for paper towels and public cleaning supplies. Landlord only checked the community mailbox once a week when he was in town and refused to trust anybody with the mailbox key. As it starts to roll into the summer, in June, landlord decided that AC cost too much and we were using it too much, so he removed the thermostat from the wall. Okay. One day, some of us tenants confronted him when he was at the house, since landlord also slept at the house about 1 day a week, and I'll never forget his words as he rushed out of the house. "It's legal for me to do this, and I don't care since I don't have to live here." Well, sir, forget you. I'm tilted as heck at this guy's obvious money grab from 6 tenants. Well, it turns out he's right. He legally doesn't need to provide air conditioning. So the next day, I purchase a high BTU-free standing portable air conditioner that exhausts out of the window. This thing was luxury. Of course, I pump my room to 65 degrees Fahrenheit, the lowest setting. We have a couple other minor disagreements that wind up with crappy landlord texting me that it's fine if I wanted to break my lease and move out early. Perfect. When landlord finally gets a whiff of my AC setup, he comes to my room to complain about my AC unit. I reply curtly, "It's legal for me to do it, and I don't care since I don't have to pay for electricity." He leaves and later sends me a text. Yeah, okay. Unbeknownst to landlord, I'm taking his move-out offer seriously, and this whole time I've been rallying the troops. All the tenants have been upset about everyone's living situation, so with some minor encouragement, I managed to convince 2 of the other 6 tenants to move out at the same time as me. They were on a month-to-month agreement. I finally submit all our notices of intent to vacate at the same time, barely a week after my previous conversation with landlord. He is mad. He was just trying to get me out of the house, but now he has 3 rooms to fill instead of just 1. I ask about my legally mandated pre-move-out inspection. In no uncertain terms, he told me to go forget myself. He said he's too busy to perform an inspection. Well, that's illegal, but okay. Time comes to move out. I found another room for rent much closer to the office for only $100 more per month. We all move out, and I text landlord about my security deposit. No response. I text again. No response. Okay, I see where this is going. I spend days and days reading the law, compiling evidence and screenshots, and listing the laws that were broken. The smoking gun was the statute that requires a pre-move-out inspection and a list of things to fix, and itemized lists of deductions within 21 days, or else landlord loses the right to withhold any of my deposit. In addition, he would be subject to treble damages if he's found to be acting in bad faith. I text again and again. I give him plenty of leniency, and I even cite the laws so I can prove in court that I'm acting in good faith. And landlord intentionally ignores the laws that I made him aware about. Landlord probably thinks I'm a young pushover college student who won't follow through with legal threats. Well, sir, we're going to court because I'm petty as heck when it comes to people trying to do me over. I file in small claims for $650 plus treble damages, plus court costs. Landlord files a counterclaim of $2,000 for damages to the property, claiming I caused flooding and I broke the microwave. Okay, buddy. In response, I gather testimonies from 3 of the other tenants and I build my case into a 40-page packet of evidence, complete with page numbers, a table of contents, and descriptions for every screenshot and photo. I make 3 copies of everything and submit it to the court and the defendant landlord. The court date is set for November, and I leave the state just before Christmas, so just in time to appear in person. Landlord thinks if I'm no longer in the state, he'll automatically win since I'm not willing to fly back to California. Well, unbeknownst to landlord, California courts offer an option to appear by telephone. He starts filing to request to postpone the trial a total of 3 times. The 3rd request is finally denied because even the courts are getting tired of his crap. Final date is January. Court day comes and I get the call. I'm sworn in and then connected to the court. I'm given time to present my case. Unfortunately, I didn't prepare a script, so I kind of summarize the events and explain why I deserve money. Then landlord gets time to defend himself and explain his counterclaim. He doesn't prepare anything either and ends up rambling about random crap that doesn't help his case at all. For example, he spends a lot of time explaining how another one of his tenants was crappy and so his behavior was justified. He doesn't even have a sliver of evidence for his counterclaim when the judge asks for it. The judge asks a few more questions and announces that he'll review the evidence and will get the decision in the mail. A couple of weeks later, I get the judgment saying I'm owed $650. Landlord gets nothing. Well, dang, no treble damages for me. However, it's just my luck. The landlord is a jerk that won't accept defeat. He files an appeal for who knows what. It's granted. Redo trial is scheduled for May. This time, I'm 10 times more prepared. Once again, I'm sworn in and then they connect me to the courtroom speaker. This time, I have a hashed out script that I read, making sure to emphasize how often I informed the landlord of the law, how often landlord knowingly broke the law, and how I offered so much leniency and so many opportunities to do the right thing. Once again, landlord doesn't prepare anything, but instead rambles on so much that even the judge tells him to get back on track multiple times. Landlord claims I caused water damage and he had to replace all the carpets. The judge asks for an invoice or receipt. He has none. Landlord claims I broke the microwave, so the judge reads him the 3 witness statements that all state I didn't break the microwave. Landlord says they're all lying. He still has no evidence whatsoever. At this point, the judge clearly sounds done with his crap and says we'll get the decision in the mail and the call ends. A couple of weeks later, I get the judgment. I'm owed $1,800 and landlord still gets nothing. Well, dang, would you look at that? His appeal did not quite work out for him. He goes from owing $650 to owing me $1,800. Being the jerk that he was, he files for a mistrial, claiming I was not sworn in and that I lied in my testimony. Denied. Outside of court, landlord offers a payment plan of $20 a month, which will take 7.5 years to pay back, or otherwise he refuses to pay up. Okay, I see how collecting my money is going to be. I figure out he banks at BOA by looking up the checks I gave him for rent and seeing where they were cashed. I filed for a writ of execution that will allow me to perform a bank levy. It's granted, so I prepare a packet for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to go to BOA and take his money. LACSD serves him with papers and orders BOA to freeze his account. After his allotted time, 30 days, to contest the seizure, LACSD seizes the money plus 10% APY interest plus sheriff fees. I finally get the glorious check in the mail 20 months after moving out. I'll probably frame it. Total $1,893.91. Tips for situations like this. Find a small claims guide. There's a plethora of helpful information out there because everybody wants you to win. Even the court wants you to win. At least in California, they offer a free in-person small claims advisory clinic where employees advise you and walk you through the whole process, making sure you know the process and what to expect. Document everything. Have conversations through text or email if possible for easy screenshots. Photograph everything, even if you don't think it's important because the landlord might just claim you damaged it. Do your research on the law, know what is legal and illegal, and know the penalties for violations. Compile evidence against your landlord and cite the laws that they are breaking. The easier you make it for the judge to see that you're right, the more likely they'll side with you. Get supporting witness statements. It changes the case from he said, she said, where the landlord is calling you a liar, to a 4 versus 1, where the landlord has to call everybody a liar. Just don't commit hearsay. Have them appear in person or have them sign and submit a declaration. Follow procedures to the T. Last thing you want is for your evidence to be thrown out because you didn't send a copy to the defendant at least 10 days before the court date. Come to court prepared and remember to plan properly. Judges like people who are on top of their stuff. If you come to court unprepared, thinking that you can just talk your way to a win, it will be dead obvious. Don't expect the process to be quick. It'll take a while for your landlord to get their comeuppance, but it'll be worth it. At the end of the day, the courts want you to win. It'll just take a while. Brother steals my life savings. I'm a 31-year-old male and currently serve in the British Army. I come from a very poor and broken family. My brother is 30, who also serves in the Army, but a different corps to myself. He lives directly opposite my father's house and lives around 250 miles away. I wasn't raised by my parents and brought up by my grandparents, who were both retired and living off of their state pension. So money was hard, but they did what they could, and I'm thankful. I worked on a local farm since I was 12 to get what other kids had and often enough money for food. My brother, Martin, was raised by my father and stepmom, who provided for him well. I have several other siblings who my mom raised. There's 8 of us in total. I only talk to one of my siblings, who is my half-sister Sarah. Martin is everything I hate in a person. Mean, big-headed, gloats, and the world evolves around him. All of my mail goes to my father's house. This is normal for people who serve. Over the 10 years, I had managed to save just under £35,000, which is a huge amount to me. I have lived a simple life saving, where I can and volunteered to deploy on operations, which we get a bonus for doing. I have officially spent over 4.5 years not sleeping in my own bed to achieve this, and my dream of owning my own home, which is something unheard of in my family. Upon returning from my last operational tour, the time came to start looking for a home. I set my budget, got an AIP, agreement in principle, and found an area I liked. When the time came to start moving my money to a separate account, to my shock and horror, I discovered my account had less than £50 in it. I felt sick, horrified, and crushed. I called my bank, hoping it was just a mistake. It wasn't. There had been a number of withdrawals and transfers made over the last 6 months that had cleared the balance. The only information they could give me was a statement showing the account it left and the account number that it was transferred to. I spoke to my stepmom, who has the info of my account, to find out if she had moved it. As she went through the account, she had noticed the account number was my brother's. My blood is boiling now. I called him and let loose on the phone, and after a swift exchange of insults, he admitted to taking it. For those wondering what his excuse was, and I kid you not, "You don't need the money, you don't have a family, probably wouldn't ever have one either, and it's selfish having all that money and not sharing it." He earns above national average, lives comfortably, shoves it in people's faces. For example, when it comes around to Christmas, him and his wife like to post on social media how much they've bought. They literally lay it all over their living and dining room floors, stacked high, and there's no room to walk, as a means to gloat to people who do not have the means to buy as much as them. Here comes the revenge. I'm back into no contact with him. However, I am fully aware of a few things. Martin's wife claims he lives with his mother, so she can claim state benefits for her and his 3 kids. I took leave from work for 3 weeks and go visit my father and stepmom. I record my brother stopping at his house every single day and wrote a log of when he left and returned. My stepmother also informed me he isn't working much because he has told his sergeant major his wife and one of his kids are seriously ill and he needs to be home to take care of them. To clarify, they are not. They are in good health. In the British Army, you get paid full, whether you're off work ill, family issues, etc. A perk of the job. I sent this information to the Department of Work and Pensions, and they launched their own investigation. Aside from being a benefit thief, I then call his sergeant major. After a discussion and a few emails of a social media link, which is covered in videos of Martin and his wife always drinking, partying, and a lot of geotagging, he is called back to work immediately. From what he's told my dad, he was given a 2-year promotion ban and an £1,800 fine. I do not know how long he had been doing this for. He was also moved camp very quickly after this. His wife has also been ordered to repay a year's worth of benefits back to the taxpayers. Big win for the little people. Lastly, he also wrote off his shiny new car, which is probably where all my money went. As for what he's stolen from me, I've spoken to a legal expert in fraud who seems willing to take my case, and I want to fully press charges and reclaim what I can. My father, on the other hand, has told me not to take this route and proclaims if I do it, it will undoubtedly affect his kids and his ability to get work if he ever left the military due to gaining a criminal record. He has suggested we talk about a repayment plan as he's been punished enough, which I know it will never be repaid. I'm at odds with the guilty feeling. In order to take it to court, I'd have to lodge a formal complaint. However, I am bitter. It's crappy. I worked so hard all of these years to improve my situation in life just to have it all pulled from me. I'm thankful I've still got my health, but life's not been easy and I feel just like giving up. I will update on my decision later. Try to scam me out of my bond? Become blacklisted from renting instead. So this happens around 2 years ago when I first moved to Australia. After 6 months of backpacking around Asia, I landed in Melbourne and couch surfed for a few weeks at my friend's place whilst I was getting on my feet and finding a place to live. After a couple of weeks searching and working, I stumbled across what I thought would be the perfect opportunity for somewhere to stay. The room was advertised on housemates.com and I'd be living with another girl and her 2 dogs. Amazing, I love animals. What a bonus. So I move into my bedroom in the 2-bedroom townhouse in a nice suburb of Melbourne. 2 months rent up front and a $1,081 bond. I've never rented before, so I admit I was probably a little naive and a bit too trusting. I transferred over the total amount to my housemate, who was the renter of the property. I move in and everything seems grand. A couple of weeks later, I start to realize the person I'm living with is a terrible human being. She hasn't bothered to train her second dog, so it goes to the bathroom all through the house, chews the wires out of the back of the TV, and apparently it has a taste for drywall as well. She doesn't wash her clothes on a regular basis and is just altogether a bit grimy. But I keep my room nice and the rent is reasonable, so I stay. A few months later, my soon-to-be girlfriend comes back from traveling Europe to be with me, and we decide it's probably easier and cheaper if she moves in with me. I asked the girl I'm living with if that's fine and how much she'd like us to pay rent-wise, considering there's another person moving in. We settle on a price and carry on. Now this is where it hits the fan. It's coming towards Christmas time. I have a flight booked back home to England to see my family, and my now girlfriend decides she would like to come and see my hometown as well. Now, to stay another year in Australia when on a working holiday visa, you have to complete 3 months of farm work or work in a regional place. My partner's parents lived in such a place in Australia, so we decided it would be best if we moved out of the place we currently were, went to England for Christmas, then move into her parents' place so I could get work for my second-year visa. After telling this to the girl we were renting with, she tells me, "Well, you forfeit your bond then." We have a massive argument where she tells me that the bond wasn't paid to the bond authority and it was a safer net for her in case I decided to leave without notice. Bear in mind that this is at least a month before we're due to leave. I even offer to find her a replacement, which she declines. Anyway, we come to the agreement that she will return my bond when I leave. On the night before we drive to the airport, me and my partner walk into the house to find her with 4 of her friends in the main room, smoking with no doors or windows open and both dogs in there. The smoke is unbearable, so I tell her to open a window and that I need my bond back now before she forgets. She ignores me and carries on with her friends. We fly to England, have the best holiday, and then move back to Adelaide so I can start my farm work. I told myself I'm not going to get the bond back, and I try to come to terms with this. However, it seemed to be once a month it would pop into my head, and it would infuriate me beyond rational levels. So every time it comes to my mind, I send over a text of, "Hey, where's my bond? Can you please send it over with my banking details and the amount?" No reply. A few more months passed like this with me messaging her and no reply. I tried her Facebook, but she had blocked me, so I can only assume she blocked my number as well. Anyway, I'm due a trip to Melbourne to see some friends and have a good weekend, which obviously reminds me this jerk owes me money. So I look up the property online, find the real estate agents, and send them over an email. In the email, I told the real estate agents of how I paid bond to the girl I was living with, thinking it would be sent on my behalf, and of everything else that had happened to the property whilst I had been there. Dogs chewing through walls, smoking in the house, pets in there, and also illegally subletting her room out to me. I didn't realize this was a thing until my girlfriend mentioned it. I received an email back the next morning asking me for proof of rent and bond being sent and proof of residency, which I sent over and they said they would be in touch. Whilst I am in Melbourne, I receive a phone call from the estate agents telling me that they had been in contact with the girl and have arranged for her to send me my money back. Now, she hadn't blocked my partner on Facebook, so we knew she was on holiday in the States, so that $1,081 would hurt. Karma ensues. A week later, she texts me and asks if I'm happy that I got her kicked out of her house and blacklisted from renting in Melbourne. Yes, I am. Enjoy moving to another state. Pay people what you owe. My parents used me to cheat on their taxes. This is the first of likely many stories I will be posting on here since I grew up with very entitled/insane/narcissistic parents. One aspect of the overlord relationship that my parents had with my brother and I was that they were always using us for money. Even when the only money we had was a $20 bill we got if we got straight A's, they would still borrow from us to pay for gas or stop a check from bouncing, and then never pay us back. The worst incident happened sometime in my early teens. One day, my parents came home and excitedly announced that they had opened up a pair of bank accounts in our names and had deposited $2,500 in each. They told us this money would be available to us once we reached college age. As you can imagine, my brother and I were ecstatic. I fantasized about using that money to buy my first car someday, or investing it in a mutual fund, something I had recently learned about in my budgeting class at school. Fast forward a few weeks later, I mentioned the money to my brother, and we started discussing the different ideas we had about how we would each spend the money someday. My mother overheard us and scoffed. "What are you talking about? That's not your money, and you're not getting a car." I was so horrified, I felt like my heart stopped. "What do you mean? You said you opened the bank accounts in our name." "That doesn't make it your money. Your dad and I set up those bank accounts to fix a problem we were having with filing our taxes." Tears in our eyes and devastated, my brother and I reminded her that they had told us we would get that money once we went to college. "Oh, that's just something your father decided to say because he thought it would make you happy." She then laughed. "I can't believe you actually thought we would give you kids $5,000. Sure enough, we spoke to our father, and he confirmed that they had closed the bank accounts and taken the money back. He also laughed, thinking it was pretty funny you guys actually bought that. I'm afraid I have no karmic ending to this story other than, as they say, a life well lived and the fact that I refuse to give my parents money ever. I have many other stories that I'd like to share, so I hope you'll enjoy reading them. Mother lies, takes money from me, then gets done over financially. Backstory. So I'm 19 and I've been living with my mother for a good 3 to 5 years. I was put into foster care at a young age and don't remember living with my mother at all. Before moving in with her, she would tell me how great it would be for me to live there and how I would be treated with respect and yada yada yada. Well, since I started college, things went to heck. My whole life, I always wanted to go to college for art, but my mother convinced me that it was stupid, and so I chose to go for a business degree. I got into my state's Business and Marketing Honor Society during my last year of high school for having a 98 average in all 5 of my business classes. My first semester of college, everything started out fine. Then the end of September hit, and I got a reimbursement from financial aid. Let me add, my mother is on SSI for minor disabilities and hasn't worked in the past 18 years. She has arthritis and fibromyalgia, so apparently she can't work. I got public assistance that I never knew about since I was never allowed to do paperwork for anything. I thought we only got food stamps, but apparently she lied and said I was paying a couple $100s for rent so she could get more money. So she was getting nearly $500 a month for my needs. I never got anything unless it was Christmas, and $350 a month for food stamps. My boyfriend had to buy me food because I was never allowed to eat at home and didn't want to get a $3,000 meal plan on campus. Anyways, I got a healthy $2,000 back from financial aid, which I originally planned on spending on clothes. I hadn't had a pair of fitting jeans since I had lived with my mother, a laptop for school, and food. Well, apparently every time I get money, it belongs to my mother. She demanded I give her most of the money, So I spent $1,500 on some jeans for me and a brand new PS4 system, PS Vita, PS Plus, and a bunch of PS4 games for my boyfriend. I know that sounds reckless of me, but he's paid me back for it. She was upset and belittled me till I gave her the rest of the money for rent and bills and food. She went off and bought her boyfriend crap. I was mad because obviously that's just not okay. I just pushed through the semester and kind of sucked it up like I usually do. February came along and pretty much the same thing happened. She demanded my $3,000. I got more this past semester because I only had to pay for one textbook, to pay for rent, electricity, the Wi-Fi, food, and everything under the sun. She got mad when I refused to give her more than $350. I went off and spent the money on my anniversary, including outfit, gas, 2 meals, and some gifts. A new phone. My phone barely worked and was 7 years old, and prepaid my phone plan for the next few months. I also bought myself some food for when I was home. She was irate. How dare I spend money on my boyfriend and not the woman who birthed me? I tried staying away from home as much as possible, driving around with my boyfriend for the most part, but every time I came home, I would get yelled at. Well, March was when crap hit the fan. I needed my Medicaid card. They put cash assistance on that card for convenience, and birth certificate for a program that helps people get jobs in the area, and she wasn't having it. Apparently, saying I needed them was being rude and disrespectful. I ignored her for the most part and kept insisting that I needed them right away because I had to leave. She gave them to me after half an hour of me telling her I needed to leave and just started yelling at me. So I left for a few hours and I got a call from my caseworker asking when I would turn in timesheets. I had to get a signature from each teacher stating I was in class to keep my insurance benefits and the food stamps. I didn't know about the cash assistance, and she told me I could lose the cash assistance if I didn't. I asked her what she was talking about, and she told me I got approximately $500 a month to pay for rent and other things I needed. I informed her that I never knew about that, and she was very upset that my mother was using the money on God knows what. She told me to change the PIN on the card and to not let my mother touch it. So I changed the PIN on my card, went home, and my room was torn up. My clothes were everywhere. My old laptop was missing. My Christmas gifts from my boyfriend were gone. I was very upset. I told my mother that I wanted my stuff back, and she just threw everything at my door. I started packing my bags because I was done with her garbage. She demanded I give her my Medicaid card back since she keeps everyone else's. She got in my face, threw my glass onto the floor, tried throwing my new phone, and was just screaming at me till I gave it to her. I have post-traumatic stress disorder, so I panic when someone is even slightly loud. After she went to the store and tried buying something with it, she came home and started shoving me around, demanding I give her the PIN. I was just like my father. I was garbage for buying jeans that actually fit me for once in my life. I was trash for liking the presents I got from my boyfriend and not from her. I got pants that were 2 sizes too big and very low rise for Christmas. Yeah, no, etc., etc. She actually hit me because of it. So, of course, I was dumb and gave it to her. Someone, for some reason, called the cops, and they showed up shortly after, and her boyfriend started telling them I was manipulative and a pathological liar. I showed them where she'd hit me and tried explaining that she took my Medicaid card, but they didn't care. The cops never care, because supposedly my mom's boyfriend has put half of our local police force into the hospital. After the cops left, my mother said that my boyfriend, who has done nothing and has only been supportive of me throughout this, was a criminal and that he was not allowed to enter the house again. Then she said I had a new curfew of 6 p.m. I had a class that ended at 5 and it took me 2 hours to walk home, so that was stupid. And if I left the house, I was to never return. So I left. My boyfriend took me to a homeless shelter specifically for teens and young adults that were in bad situations and had nowhere else to go. I got my own apartment with the potential of getting a roommate at some point, and I honestly have never felt better in my life. The following day, I go to get a new card, and my mother had taken out $260 at 5 a.m. with the help of my oldest sister. I had $4 to buy food for 2 weeks before I could apply for my own food stamps and cash assistance case. Most of the time, I only had water, and I would eat every 3 days at my boyfriend's house. I didn't eat anything for a week before being able to get food stamps. I wish I had gotten a job, but having 8 classes, one of which was 6 hours a week for a measly 1 credit, took up the majority of my time. The college suggested I withdraw to focus on my mental health. I was afraid of leaving my new place because I didn't want to be attacked by my family or my mom's boyfriend. I went from seeing my therapist for half an hour every other week to seeing her for an hour every week. She suggested that I cut contact with my mother permanently, even though it meant losing a good $3,000 worth of stuff I bought myself over the past 12 years. I got paid to babysit and take care of the farm while in foster care. I was so upset about losing all 40 of my stuffed animals. They really meant a lot to me, and they kinda were the only things that had helped me calm down from a panic attack. I know it sounds immature, but I've had most of them since I was about 8 years old. Then something popped in my head while I was applying for my own food stamps and cash assistance case. The revenge. I realized that I could easily report my mother for welfare fraud. Not only had she been taking my $500 a month, but she had lied and said her boyfriend and her didn't share food and were roommates. She paid to use other people's food stamps. So I did just that. I went to our state's website and reported her for fraud, adding when she took the money from my card at 5 a.m. that one day. I went into detail, gave the exact location of where she did it and everything. I said she used other people's cards all the time, which was very true, and how she demanded my card whenever I had it. A couple weeks later, I get a letter from the Department of Social Services. They accidentally sent it to my address instead of my mom's, thinking she moved along with me. I open it, and I read that she was denied public assistance, denied medical insurance, and denied food stamps. She met the requirements for getting them, but because of my report, she lost everything but SSI, as far as I know. What probably helped was that I told DSS she stole my card and requested a new one, and the lady at the front desk was mortified. I found out she took the money out later when I set up the card online and saw all previous transactions for the past year. She's out $850 a month, more than her SSI, and out of her health insurance, which was paid for by the state, all because of me, and I boasted about it to my therapist. My therapist actually congratulated me because I'm very shy with people, so to report something like that was very unlikely of me unless you get me very angry. Not sure if this was appropriate here, but it took a lot out of me to even be able to do this. Thanks, anxiety. Entitled mom forgot her kid at the supermarket for 2 hours. Cast. We've got me. We've got my boyfriend. We've got Annie, entitled mom's daughter. She's about 3. We've got the man at the help desk. We've got the nice dad and the entitled mom. We've got police 1 and 2. Important note. I live in a fairly small town, so many people here know each other. This happened last year, mid-June. We were on a break from school, and boyfriend and I decided to get some snacks for a movie date. As one does, we go to the supermarket and start grabbing our stuff. We were debating which cider, I'm a lightweight, I should grab when I see Annie enter the aisle. She looked scared and she was crying a little bit. As anyone with a little bit of a heart would do, we leave the cider for now and go to see what's the matter. Me. Hey there, are you okay? What's wrong? Annie looked up at me. Maman. Mommy in French. Me. Oh, have you lost your mom? She sniffles and nodded. Me. Well, we're going to help you find her. Is that okay with you? I'm me, and this is boyfriend. What's your name? Annie. I took her by the hand and walked up to the help desk while boyfriend paid for the groceries. We didn't get cider. I notified the man working the desk that Annie had lost her mother. He was very kind and asked for Annie's name and family name so he could make a call on the microphone, which went about like this. Man. The little Annie X has lost her mother. Could the mother of Annie X present herself at the reception desk? Annie was set on a little bench that was facing the exit. That way, she could have seen if her mother was about to head out. It was rush hour, Friday, around 5 p.m., so it took boyfriend a while to pay for everything and get to us. By that time, another message was sent around the store. Poor Annie was scared, as she kept asking where her mommy was. We tried to entertain her. The man allowed her to read a book from the book aisle to prevent her from freaking out too much. After 1 hour, she claimed she was hungry, which seems fair since it was probably around 6 p.m. We didn't have very healthy food with us, but gave her a little snack, a sponge stuffed with chocolate shaped like a bear. This went on until an hour and a half after the first call was made. The man who worked there pulled my boyfriend and I aside for a minute, saying that they were obligated to call the police because this could be a case of abandonment. This was a relief in a way because the police would know how to take care of her a little better. About 10 minutes later, 2 policemen showed up and came inside. Boyfriend, employee, and I were first asked about the situation. Annie was asked a couple of questions too. Officer 1. Hi, Annie. I'm Officer. I'm here to help you find your mommy. Annie. Is mommy in trouble? No, don't worry. She's not in trouble and neither are you. If we want to find her quickly, I'm going to need to know what she looks like. Do you think you can help me? Annie nodded and described her mom's hair color, eye color, and very roughly what she was wearing. Mostly colors since she was only about 3. Well, shortly after that, a man and a woman entered the store. While the man was running like crazy and the woman walking slowly behind him. The man was calling for Annie, looking so worried. This prompted Annie to look up and her face lit up. She ran up to them screaming, "Maman, Papa!" Mommy and Daddy in French. Nice Dad hugs her and looks so relieved. He was apologizing to her so many times. The police still asked to see both of their IDs just to confirm that they were indeed Annie's parents, but that seemed to be more of a formality since Annie was the one to recognize them. Officer 2 asked them what happened, and what we heard shocked us, entitled Mom. Well, I was doing my groceries, but Annie was being annoying, so I sent her to look at toys. And well, I just forgot she was there and went home. It's only when Nice Dad came home from work that we noticed she wasn't there. Officer 2. Miss, you do realize that your daughter could have been taken, and if these 2 hadn't been there, gestures towards us, who knows what could have happened to her? Well then it's fine. Why make such a big deal out of it? Why did you 2 even call the police? Are you trying to get me arrested? Boyfriend. We didn't call the police. Employee did because it's apparently store policy. We didn't know what was going on. This could have been a case of abandonment. Entitled Mom was not pleased by this comment, clearly. How dare you? Are you telling me I'm a bad mother? Is that what you're insinuating, young man? Before Boyfriend could reply, Nice Dad gave her a look that would make anyone shut up right away. I bet he's a teacher. After a bit more talk, the little family were allowed to leave and so were we. Nice Dad thanked us profusely for our time. We went home, had our movie night, but I think about that sometimes. This woman was so careless with her kid. It baffles me. Karens of the world, my siblings are not my kids. Hello, these stories are from a few years back, but it still happens occasionally to this day. I was 15 years old when my mom started having my half-siblings, so by 16 to 17, the 3 of them were toddlers and behaved well enough to go to Walmart. Story 1. I live in Louisiana. Public schools have a uniform. The night before, Mom asks me if it's okay if she picks me up from school to do a Walmart run. I agree. This uniform has a red polo shirt, slacks, and mandatory badge with your grade, you're in school, with your name and picture. I usually take off the badge when I go somewhere after school or cover it with a jacket. I forgot to. Around 3 p.m., we're at Walmart. Mom has 1 sibling in a basket, and I have the other 2 in my cart. I'm mostly pushing my siblings around the toy aisles when Mom suddenly remembers she needs something from the other side of the store. So I'm alone with the 2 of them. I'm pushing the cart back and forth when this older lady comes into the aisle I'm in with her own kid in her cart. I make eye contact, but I'm far more invested in keeping my siblings calm. I notice this woman has a bad blonde dye job, long fake pink nails, hella wrinkles, and the haircut before I knew what it was. She's dressed Southern classy style, but obviously doesn't have the money to actually be classy, as in, obviously fake jewelry, and it's big and heavy looking. I've gone back to my siblings at this point as this lady approaches me. She's Karen, and I'm OP. Karen, glaring at me. Are these yours? She motions to my cart. Me, thinking she means the toys my siblings have dragged into the cart. Well, not yet. I laugh nervously. What do you mean these kids are not yours yet? Oh, I thought you meant the toys. Karen looks at my school ID, then back to me. Aren't you too young for kids? How old were you when you had them? Me. Well, actually, I was 15 when sibling 1 was. Karen starts shrieking. 15? Now, I have bad social anxiety, and it's worse when someone is yelling at me, so I'm shaking a bit. She starts going off on this tirade about how I should have waited until marriage, that I better marry their dad soon, and that I should drop out of school to take care of them. Me, finding the idea of marrying my stepdad repulsive enough to have the courage to yell. Ma'am, that would require me marrying my stepdad. This is not Alabama. Karen freezes. Now around this point, my mom returns in a hurry and tells this woman sternly to leave all of my kids alone. Karen's eyes get all bug-eyed, realizing that I'm one of those kids. She mutters one of those non-apologies and leaves. Mom treats me to ice cream. Story 2. Senior year of high school, so I'm 18 years old. Go to Whale Mart with my mom and my siblings. Similar setup as the last one. I remembered to cover my badge with a jacket this time. My mom has my brother in her cart and goes to get something. My sisters and I are looking at dolls. I'm trying to convince them that they don't need the Barbie with the big set. I think it was a house, but they keep putting it into the cart anyways. DK is dense Karen. While my back is to the aisle, this woman apparently came into it with her own kid. Now her kid is one of those brats that points at things and goes, "I want that," and expects their mom to put it in the cart. I can hear this kid pointing at various dolls. She then points at the one in our cart and goes, "I want that one." Karen, "Hey you, do you work here?" Now to be fair, a chunk of staff go to the same high school. They have to wear the same slacks at work. Some wear their school jackets to work. The only way this lady would be able to tell I didn't work there was my shirt. I turn enough to see her, and that's when she also sees my siblings. She's dressed almost the same as the first Karen, only she has pink in her hair to look young. Karen shrieks, "Oh my God, you have children?" Me, "Ma'am, please don't yell. I do not work here." I unzip my jacket to show her the school shirt. She also sees my student ID. Karen still shrieking, "Oh my God, you're too young." Me, "Ma'am, please, you're scaring the kids." She starts entering a similar tirade the first Karen did, that I should have waited, I need to marry their daddy, that I need to drop out because being a mom is so much more important than a piece of paper. I've tried interrupting her several times, but she only shrieks louder. I see a big burly man walk down the aisle towards us. I realize he's in uniform for security. Security firmly, "Ma'am, if you do not stop yelling, you will be escorted out." Shrieking still, "How can you be a good Christian man and not react to the sins before you?" Security loudly and firmly, "Ma'am." She then turns around and actually looks at him. She freezes a bit, but turns back to me. "Give me the toy." Me, "What?" "I bet you can't afford it if you have 2 kids. Give me the set." Me, angry and yelling, "They are my siblings." "Just give me the set." Security firmly puts a hand on her shoulder and whispers something to her. She goes pale. Security almost marches her out the aisle. I do my best to calm down my sisters who were brave enough not to cry. My mom shows up soon after and sees me badly shaken up. I tell her what happened as we get treated to burgers. Entitled Karen Throws an Apple at Me, Gets Kicked Out. This story begins when I, 20 male, was shopping at my local grocery store. I'm just minding my own business when I hear someone over my shoulder ranting about how soft the apples on display were. I turn around and see a lady right in front of me fuming. Karen, "Excuse me, do you know where I can find some better apples? I felt all these apples, and they're all soft." At first I thought to myself, why are you even touching all the food during what's going on? Little did I know, the worst was yet to come. Me, "I'm sorry, I don't work here." "Well, you're wearing a mask. All the workers here are wearing a mask." This is a good spot to mention I live in a very conservative town where people, especially the older ones, haven't been distancing much or wearing masks, and sure enough, this lady was no exception. Me, "I'm telling you I don't work here. Now please leave me alone." "Where's your manager? I'm personally going to have you fired for this." At this point, I've had enough and began to walk away. This was until I felt something hard hit me in the shoulder. This lady just threw one of the apples at me. Me, "Did you just throw that at me?" I asked. "You weren't listening to me, so I had to take matters into my own hands." At this point, an actual employee walks over and sees this commotion and asks us what's going on. Karen, "Your employee here is being very unhelpful, and I'd like to speak to a manager about it immediately." What she didn't know is that this helpful employee saw the whole thing and isn't buying a word of what Karen is saying. Employee, "Ma'am, I saw the whole thing, and I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store now." "What do you mean? I haven't done anything. It takes the employee threatening to call the police before Karen finally gets the message and leaves the store. The employee apologizes profusely and says this isn't the first time he's dealt with that same lady, and if she does it again, he's going to call the cops for real. After that, I just continued with my shopping like nothing had happened and was just trying to forget about it. Looking back, I wish I would have said something sassy to the lady as she was leaving, but honestly, I was just too much in shock of what had happened to do anything. My sister thinks $55 covers 2 months of babysitting. This makes me hurt a little, because up to this point, my sister was the only one I could mildly get along with within my family. But I guess she is my mother's daughter, so the entitlement shouldn't have been a surprise. My sister and brother-in-law are both essential, cop and doctor, so they've needed someone to watch their kids now that school is canceled and a lot of daycare services aren't around. And even then, the youngest one had been kicked out of 2 of them, and finding a new one is difficult due to that. So I've been watching these kids 4 to 6 times a week, depending on their schedule, anywhere between 7 to 12 hours a day. I was told to wait until they got paid, then told to wait for the stimulus check to come in and they'd pay me for it. At that point, and I do have the text, it was going to be $85 a week. Regardless of that, 4 to 6 times a week. Well, they got the stimulus check in. My sister gives me $55 and tells me that this was for the babysitting. I told her, what the heck? This wasn't what we agreed on. I was told that I should be grateful because she has been feeding me. No, she hasn't. I bought my own food, intended to have to buy the food that these kids were eating for lunch. I was told that it was just like hanging out, having fun, playing video games with my nephews. No, it was not, and she knows her kids better to know they're monsters. They're both destructive. It's a hassle since I have to chase one of them around all the time to prevent them from climbing shelves or from getting out the front door because these kids were never taught to mind, and when I refused to bring my gaming laptop for the older one to play anymore, I told him specifically if he wanted to play on it, he'd only touch the wireless mouse and keyboard and play it at the desk, but not to touch the laptop. So what does he do after getting bored with the one game he begged me to let him play? Picks up the laptop and runs with it and drops it. I screamed at him, not my best moment, and he had the attitude of a valley girl of, whatever, accidents happen, that's why they're accidents. If it breaks, you can just buy a new one. Of which I told him he would be the one to replace the $1,600 computer. But since that day, he's been a whining jerk about me not bringing it over for him to play with. I have to deal with these kids all the time and not being able to do a thing about it. They are monsters, and the only reason I agreed to do this was because she was my sister and she needed the help. But I was supposed to be compensated for my time away from my own work. I work commission-based jobs at home, but I can't work on it around them as there's no pause for me to do it. I know it'll probably be crappy of me to do if I just don't show up for the next few days until they fix paying me what they at the very least owe me. But on the other hand, I really just don't want to be around those kids anymore. Edit. They're 11 and 8. Falsely accuse me and withhold my pay? Say goodbye to your business. I worked at a small local spa company. There was only about 6 workers there. I worked there for a year and a half and only met the owner once, but talked to them on the phone a lot. She was crazy, but that's besides the point. Anyways, I got hired because my friend's mom, P, was the manager, and someone had quit in the middle of their shift, so they needed someone fast. I worked really well there and learned very fast. I was very good at the job to the point where after a couple of months, they sent new hires to be trained by me. Turnover there was bad. Despite this, I didn't get a raise or anything. It wasn't a big deal, but it would have been nice. Anyways, I was always a closer. There would be a list of things I had to do after we closed, like vacuum and dust and such, janitorial things. As months go by, P begins to pick apart things. A string was left on the rug, the candy bowls weren't filled, even though they weren't even half gone, etc. Slowly, things started to get worse. Eventually, I was being told that I was not cleaning rooms that I know for a fact I had. Now, I admit that once in a while I would forget to clean something, but I was getting yelled at for things I knew for a fact I cleaned. My other problem was that when my coworkers would forget the same exact things, she wouldn't yell at them, but would just say, "Try to remember," or something along those lines. Eventually, P got other coworkers to lie so that she could report me to the owner. Many days I came right from school and would be wearing jeans. P left right when I got there, So after I clocked in and counted the drawer, I would go and change into my work pants. Well, other coworkers would lie and tell her I never changed. After this, I began taking pictures and time-stamping them. This worked for a little while, but then my coworkers would say I changed back into jeans after that picture. And when it came to cleaning, she would say I didn't clean it well enough, etc. All of these would get turned into the owner, but she wouldn't fire me because they were so desperate for people and no one wanted to work there. I wonder why. Eventually, I quit because I had a job for the summer that gave me a lot more hours. In my summer job, I made the same amount of money in 7 weeks that I made in a year at the last place. Right after I left, I learned why P wanted me gone so bad. P hired her son, my ex-friend, because he was too lazy to work a job where he couldn't sit around all day. That made me mad, but what also made me mad is that they wouldn't give me my last paycheck. We were paid in cash. I sent multiple emails and text messages to P and the owner that reminded them and then threatened legal action. Being a high schooler, I don't believe they thought I would do anything. How wrong they were. Well, there were many reasons I was about this, so I decided I'd document every single thing about that place. These include 8+ hour work days with no breaks or lunch, both of which are required in my state, rats in the basement, and infestation, fake security cameras, P faking the amount of money we had to pay her son and daughter for under-the-table work, not fixing things like building framework, mold, etc., allowing temperatures to go above and below the legal limit. On bad days, it was above 100 or below 50 inside. P giving themselves a raise, even though they already made more than anyone else there. Selling client information. P compiling clients for another worker to take with them to a new company. Usually not illegal, but the way they went about it was. I don't remember the exact details. Not doing anything about harassment and not paying workers. There'd be days where we didn't have enough money in the drawer, and the owner and or P would be too lazy to go to the bank, so they would just straight up not pay us. Not only this, but prior to me leaving, I recorded some of the mistreatment from P. Believe it or not, I even got them to admit to making false write-ups on me. There was more, but I can't remember what else right now. Anyways, I compiled all of this and sent it in an email to OSHA. It went down. In the end, both P and the owner were served with some hefty fines, and P is even facing jail time right now for fraud. The owner had to shut down their business and sell it. I don't know if the owner is facing any jail time. I emailed every spa within 50 miles, so the owner, P, and some coworkers have been blacklisted from working within an hour of where we're located. I never did receive my last payment. It wasn't worth going to court over, but what came out of it was so much better. My taxes pay your salary. No, they do not. This happened 3 years ago, but my friend reminded me of it yesterday, so I thought I'd share. It was the middle of June and my first weekend off in quite a long time. I'd been giving my friend a never-ending rain check of promising to teach her to fish. Our schedules finally line up, weather's perfect, it's fishing time. We arrive at a local lake. It's the type where you don't need a fishing license, just a pass for the lake. Money goes to the city. We buy our passes from the concession stand and head back to my car to get the gear. I brought 3 setups, one for me, one for a friend, and just in case. It's a really busy Saturday morning, lots of people. We do a mini hike across the lake to get to our spot and get to fishing. Friend learns quickly. We catch a few before the sun's all the way up. We're pumped how well the day is going and decide to take a lunch break when it starts to get hot. At about 11, we take the stuff back to my car. We chill, eat, hydrate, and head back. While we're walking back, a group of kids break away from their families to follow us around. They were all boys, 4 of them. 3 of them were probably around 8 to 11, and the 4th is maybe 6. I'm thinking they just want to watch us fish, and they likely told their parents where they were going, so I don't even think about it. We get back to our spot, but the kids are trying to follow us down the hill. The top of the hill has a trail. If you're careful, you can climb down to reach a small landing that's close to the water's edge. It was stressing me out watching them try and climb down, so I yell up to them to find a safer place for them to watch. Basically, next to us, easier to get to, but there's a gap in between the landings. Once they got down, they decided to have a rock skipping contest. Not exactly polite to do that next to people fishing, but I let it go. Then these kids decide to have a jumping contest. They're jumping from their landing to our landing, back and forth. There's only a 2-foot gap, but if they fell, they'd definitely get hurt. Friend is getting more stressed than me watching them. Makes them promise her to be careful. They said what I probably would have said when I was their age. Fine. Whatever, guys. The ringleader of the group, oldest, maybe 11, then asks me if they're allowed to fish. I ask them if they have a pass. Stupid me. They say yes in unison. I tell them, if you got a pass, you're good to go. Ringleader puts his hands on my fishing pole that I'm holding still and asks if he can use it. I pull away, say, no, bud, I'm using it. He picks up my just-in-case pole without asking and says, what about this one? No, that's mine, and I don't want you hurting yourself with it. Little brat gives me an attitude and shouts, well, what can I use? I didn't even know what to say at first, but I pulled out Old Faithful. Go ask your parents. It worked. They immediately left. About 20 minutes later, we hear a large group of people coming down the trail. It's the kids and their family, and the kids are whispering and pointing at me, mostly just ringleader. A lady a bit older than me, guessing mom, angrily makes her way over to the spot and lays into me. I don't remember everything, but the general consensus is that I'm ungrateful and I need to get shot, her words. Kids are still close, so I decide to keep it PG. I also have a little issue with my hearing. If something is too loud, I can't usually make out the sound. Like if you're yelling at me, I'm not going to get every word. I explain I can't hear her when she raises her voice. She starts yelling louder. I'm getting nothing. Friend is mortified. I stare at her until there's a break and say, yeah, I didn't get a word of that. She almost starts to go off again when the guy with her shouts something at her in another language and she stops. Angry lady. Did you tell these boys they couldn't fish? Me. No, I said just the opposite. She's stunned. Why can't they fish then? They're allowed to fish at this lake. Me. They can fish. They're absolutely allowed to fish here. They just can't use my stuff. Why not? Everyone else here is fishing. This lake is owned by the city. Yup, sure is. Blank stares for way too long. You need to teach them to fish. Me. Miss, I can't watch all of them. What if they hurt themselves? Yes, you are. My taxes pay your salary. No, they do not. Yes, they do. I pay taxes, and taxes pay for this lake. And they better not hurt themselves, because if they do... You think I work here? More blank stares. Me. Miss, I work at place I used to work. Doing thing I did while I was there. Even more blank stares. Me. I fix computers. I didn't, but it's easier to say than to explain what I really did. Silence. This poor lady looks so embarrassed as it clicks that I'm just a person fishing on their day off. But I don't even get an apology. No recognition that she was wrong. She just climbs back over to the rest of the family as they quietly speak amongst themselves, walking away in their shame. When they're finally out of sight, Friend and I give each other the "what the heck just happened" look and break into the most beautiful 45-minute session of uncontrollable laughter I've ever had. No, I absolutely won't come with you to your car. So I'm 15 and female. This morning, my older brother called me because the key to his car wasn't working, electric short, and he wanted me to wake my dad up so we could bring him the spare. That I did. So my dad drives us to this 7-Eleven parking lot that my brother is stuck in and hands me his card, telling me to grab him a Coke Zero and get myself something to drink and eat. It's 7:30 a.m. I'm wearing fuzzy slipper boots, leggings, a sick Persona 5 mask that I sewed myself, AirPods, and a Marvel hoodie. I have cotton candy pink hair, and I wear glasses. I'm also 5'1" and look way younger than I actually am unless I'm wearing makeup. In comes Bill. Bill is somewhat over 6 feet tall and large. I don't know if it was fat or muscle, but he was big. I don't have social anxiety. My dad is a musician, so I'm used to being approached by people that I don't know and can generally hold friendly conversation, help people who need help, stuff like that. This guy is not wearing a mask. He looks like if Guy Fieri, the dude from Duck Dynasty, and Joe Exotic had a 400-pound love child. He's wearing a sleeveless muscle shirt with the words, "Keep America Great" on it and a graphic of the president holding a guitar. I'm standing in front of the fridge door that had energy drinks in it when Bill over here taps on my shoulder. I turned around. In this moment, I felt like Derek Shepherd when the semi-truck was coming. Pure fear. The conversation went as follows. Me. Hey, sorry, am I in your way? Bill. You're awfully young to be working here. Can I see your manager? I don't think pants like that should be allowed on the job. Me, now very confused. I'm sorry, I don't work here. Do you need help? I can get an employee if you need. I picked up 2 orange monsters. My AP test is on the 11th, and I need to get my sleep schedule back on track, so I'm pulling an all-nighter, and moved 6 feet away from the guy. I already had my dad's soda tucked under my arm. Bill. Are you one of them girls who do free car washes? Can you clean out my passenger seat and come home with me? Nobody'll notice. Just say you're on your break. That escalated quickly. For context, I'm black/white/Hispanic mixed, but didn't end up with curly hair or blue eyes. I have brown eyes and very thick and wavy dark brown hair. Me. No, I'm sorry. Let me find you an employee. Bill. No, it'll be just fine. Bill then reaches for my free hand, which I very sharply pull away. I started walking to the front of the store and he follows a few feet behind. I put my things on the counter and start to check out. Bill is standing like a foot behind me. Employee. Good morning. Did you find everything okay? Me. Good morning. Yes, I did. Thank you for asking. Bill, now yelling. Excuse me. I can see that you're friends and all, but your employee has been absolutely disgusting to me, and I want my gas pumped for free. Employee. Sir, I'm sorry. She's not an employee. She's a customer. No, she's not. She offered to help me in the aisle back there. Sir, that was probably just her practicing common courtesy. Me. Is your chip reader working or should I swipe? Bill. I want your manager now. Employee. Sir, I'm the only person here right now. The manager will be here at 10 a.m. I'm standing there holding the card and waiting for this dude to back off and grab a little tube of donuts from the counter for my troubles, then place it down since I hadn't paid yet. Bill then huffs and storms out, gets into a 4x4 with wheels as tall as me, and very aggressively drives away as Hotel California blares from the speakers. I could hear it from inside the store. Employee. The chip reader works. Go ahead. The total is $11.24. I left and found my dad, handed him the bag, and told him my tale. We leave. On the way home, we passed Bill's truck. I don't think he saw us. I hope he didn't. We were in a Prius. 4x4 versus Prius never goes well for the Prius. Take the money I give for bills and squander it? Hope you like the court system. I lived with a group of people who I thought were my friends. They were 2 couples, and we all lived in the same house for almost 2 years until I recently moved out. There was David and Tina and Brittany and AJ. I was the only single person there. There was a debate on how we should pay the bills, but we all decided to give the money to the person whose name was on the bill. David paid the mortgage, Tina paid the water and electric/gas, and I paid the internet. It came to the point where I was paying close to 80% of the mortgage by myself, the entire water bill, and about 75% of the gas and electric, and I was paying the internet bill by myself. I was giving the money still to the person in charge of the bill, but came to find out about 10 days before I moved out that the mortgage was defaulted on and the house was in foreclosure. Also, the water, gas, and electric bills were a constant threat of being shut off, and that the only up-to-date bill was the internet. While they all saw me struggle to pay these off, they were mindlessly spending money during the day, which is when I sleep due to working third shift, so I never saw the mindless things they spent money on, nor did I ever see the mail since they grabbed it before I woke up. Brittany never paid anything as she was having her check garnished due to unpaid student loans, but she always had expensive makeup. AJ never held a job for more than 2 weeks. David and Tina were always calling into work, knowing that I wouldn't allow them to go without a home due to our history. One day, I woke up while they were all out and about doing something or other, so I went to go check the mail as I was expecting a package when I saw the bills in the mail, so I decided to investigate. I opened up the gas and electric bill, as they are by the same company, to see a total amount of almost $400 and in risk of being shut off. I was shocked and upset. I knew right then and there what was going on, and I vowed to do them over as hard as I could. I had just interviewed for a new job that paid almost double what I was making, and I knew that I interviewed well with them, so I told myself that if I got the job, I would give them a 30-day notice and move out. And as it was close to the end of the month and I had already paid them, I would be moving out before the 1st of February. I got the call with the job offer the next day, which I happily accepted. I did the paperwork for the background check, and it all came back clean. The same day I accepted the offer, I typed out a 30-day notice and recorded myself with my phone in my pocket, handing it to them, explaining that I was moving out. I started my job and my hunt for an apartment close to my new job, which I found within a week of starting. I took almost the entirety of my checks, set them aside for rent, deposit, and basic things that I would need. I was asked several times to help with the next month's bills, to which I said no, as I was saving for my own place and that they had plenty of time to come up with the money between the four of them, because I was doing it all by myself, pretty much on a meager pay rate of $11 an hour before my new job. There were a lot of scowls, passive-aggressive behavior, and flat-out attempts to take or use my things or foods without my permission. The day came when I finally went and got my U-Haul and had a few friends help me move. Free beer and free lunch are the best payment ever, as they shared it all with me. I was determined to get it all in one go, so I got the biggest one they had, and we got everything packed up. I took everything that was mine down to my pizza stone, which they loved, my expensive kitchen knives, which they would use and never clean, even my toilet paper that I had bought 3 days prior to because I needed it. A few rolls went missing very quick. After moving everything, I sat down on my couch, looked around, my cat at my lap, and breathed a sigh of relief. I happened to be good friends with my previous neighbors and asked them to keep an eye out for anything out of the ordinary. 4 days go by, and I come to find out that the gas, electric, and water have all been turned off, and they were asking to fill up some buckets to manually flush the toilets, bathe in, etc. Now, both couples have dogs, which my cat hated as they were both hyperactive as heck, but I loved them. So I decided that those dogs were in a dangerous situation as they had no water, no heat in the middle of winter, and probably no food as I had bought the last bag about 2 weeks prior. I hate to see an animal hungry. So I called the local humane society and left an anonymous tip about the dogs and how I was worried about them. The next day, my neighbor, Todd, texted me telling me that the dogs were removed from the home, that my previous housemates were being charged with neglect, and because of the lack of utilities, that these were not civil but criminal charges. This was enough for me to smile, but I wanted more. I knew that David was divorced and had a kid. I also knew that he wasn't paying child support. I then contacted the local courts and made them aware of the flagrant non-support and that maybe they could help the agency looking for him. I provided the address that we lived at, and the homeowner was the one who was being looked for. From there, it came to light that he was almost $25,000 behind, which is a felony in the state where I live. He's now living with someone on their couch as Tina left him. The house has been foreclosed on, and he has nothing to his name while facing multiple criminal charges. Moral of the story, don't take advantage of a friend who knows all your dirty secrets. Mother expects me to split my stimulus check with my entitled sibling. To preface, I just turned 19 years old and my sibling is 20. I wasn't planning on getting a stimulus check due to the fact that I thought I was considered a dependent due to not having a job and such. So I was just living my life, waiting for when I can get my GED and a job. 2 days ago, my mom was cooking herself dinner and I walked into the kitchen to get myself something. She asked me if I would be upset if I didn't get all of my stimulus check, and she took some of it to pay for my GED and driver's education courses. I said that I would be a little upset. I wanted to make that decision for myself to feel a little bit like an adult, and that I thought I wasn't even going to get one. Next thing I know, she came back in from her car and angrily handed me my check and said that I better be responsible with it. Now, call me unreasonable, but that was a little rude. But me being me, I just brushed it off, made myself dinner, and deposited it through my bank's mobile app. Yay, I got money for important adult things, right? Wrong. It's been 2 days now, and my mother just told me in front of my entitled sibling and dad that I should split my check with my entitled sibling. Now, I like to think I'm a pretty generous person with a big heart. I love helping people out and all, but my entitled sibling is the least responsible person I've ever met. They spend all of their money on junk and knickknacks with no purpose, especially since I need to spend the money on important things that will help me move out of this place. I said no. After this, my mom went to bed. She said goodnight to my father and my entitled sibling, but not me. Purposefully. It was one of the most petty things I've ever witnessed. My entitled sibling has apparently been complaining about not getting a stimulus check and is getting upset that I did. They're calling it unfair. I think it's perfectly fair because I didn't decide the rules for everything. I shouldn't have to shell out $600 to a person that's going to spend it on junk. Am I the one being unreasonable? Should I just give them the $600? Or should I actually stick up for myself for once and spend it on the things that I need? Any advice would be appreciated. Old lady says I'll be written up for telling her there's no breakfast. So for some background, I work in a senior living home as a server, and I'm a pretty nice person to the residents. But when they start yelling at me, I tend to cry a little, so I don't really confront anyone. We've got the old lady, we've got old lady's fiance, we've got coworker, we've got boss, and me. Story. So in my work, we stop serving breakfast at 1 p.m., and old lady usually comes in with her fiance at around noon to eat breakfast. But on that day, they came in at like 1:05 p.m., and they sat down at the table they always do, and I went to go take their order. Me. Hey, old lady and old lady's fiance, do you know what you would like? Or would you like some menus? I asked because I know they didn't know what we have for lunch since they never order lunch. Old lady. Yes, I would like some pancakes. And me. Oh, I'm sorry, but we don't serve breakfast after 1 p.m. I'm sorry. Lady. What? Not even eggs or bacon? Nothing? Me. No, I'm sorry, but would you like some menus so you can decide what you'd like? Old lady and fiance nod, and I get them menus and walk away to clean other tables, and someone else takes their orders. I thought that would be the end. Of course it wasn't, and about an hour later they finished and start heading to the front to pay. That's when the lady sees me walking away from the front to check on other residents. Are you the first person who talked to me? Yes. So you're the one who told me there was no breakfast, right? Yes. Okay, come with me to look at a menu before you get written up for being rude to a customer. Me, very confused as to what I did wrong, start walking to the table we keep menus on. Okay, opens a menu and holds it in between us. Right here, it says a la carte. That means I can have breakfast whenever I ask. Me, no. The times on the menu clearly say that we have breakfast specials from 7 to 11 a.m. and regular breakfast from 7 to 1 p.m. Yeah, but that's up here. Down here it says a la mode. That means all day. At this point, she starts kind of berating me. We have been coming here for breakfast for a while, and we're not going to have some girl telling us, "Oh, you can't have breakfast," said in a mocking tone. At this point, another resident came in and was waiting to be waited on. Lady. Now, do not go around telling people what they can and can't have. I'm going to give you a smile, and you're going to give 3 other people smiles too. One thing everyone knows about me is I hate being told to smile, no matter the context. I'll smile if I feel like I should. Now someone just came in. Don't be rude. Don't tell him he can't have breakfast, and smile at him. She then walked away and acted like nothing happened while getting cashed out by my boss and cousin. In hindsight, I should have went up and talked to my boss right then and there and told her what just happened, but I knew I was just going to cry while explaining it, so I took the other resident's order and went on break when I told my coworker who was there. I cried a little after telling them. We sat there making fun of it and saying things like, man, if she wants, she can try to order pancakes for dinner, see how far that goes, and we're not McDonald's, she should get here a bit earlier. One of my coworkers even said I was super nice when explaining that we didn't have breakfast. He said that I didn't even need to say sorry. Anyway, only one of my coworkers seemed upset. He left the room and went back to work. A couple minutes later, he comes back in and hugs me, saying he confronted old lady and told her that she was wrong, and she kept saying that I was super rude to her. I didn't want to give them breakfast because I was lazy. Coworker. Do you want to go talk to boss about it? Our boss is a take no BS from anyone type of person, so she usually tells off the residents when they are crossing the line with us. Old lady. Oh no, I'm very busy right now. Coworker. Don't worry, I'll bring boss here. That's when he told our boss, and he stood near so he could hear, and apparently old lady was telling boss that me and coworker were super rude to her. We then started joking about it again when boss comes into the break room and tells us what happened. Boss. So I talked to her about it, and she kept lying, saying that you and coworker were super rude and yelling at her, and that coworker was waving a menu in her face, which I know is a lie, as I can think of some people who would do that, and you two are nowhere near being on that list. She kept saying that a la mode meant all day, and she knows that's what it meant. I told her that's not what it meant, and that it meant one by one of what we have. Then old lady said that I was lying, and I told her I wasn't because I made the menu 15 years ago, and she just went quiet then. To this day, old lady has not spoken to me unless it's to give me her order for dinner. She never apologized or admitted she was wrong. This isn't the only story I have with her in it. Entitled lady tries to take my surfboard after trespassing on private property. So to set the scene, I live in a very small beach town in North Carolina. We get a crazy amount of tourists in the summer months, but not quite as much as Myrtle Beach, a large city in South Carolina, one of the most popular on the East Coast outside of Florida. We get our fair share of native tourists, and during my time as a lifeguard, I probably got asked 3,000 questions about sharks or jellyfish or stingrays in a day. Instead of saving people from the water, I spent most of my time telling people to stay off the dunes or telling people not to swim up to boats. So anyway, the cast composed of myself, a naive entitled tourist, and her naive entitled son. So anyway, I saw that there was supposed to be some excellent surf one day and decided to head to the beach for a little shredding action. My beach access is part of a private neighborhood and is paid for by my homeowners association, which means that it is private property. Once I get up to it, I see a middle-aged woman and her son, who is maybe 6 or 7, standing at the gate, holding floats. I think, great, I have a little arguing to do, because people are supposed to stay off unless they pay taxes for it to be maintained. I walk up and the convo goes a little like this. Entitled mom, "Hey, what is the code for this beach access?" Me, "Well, it's a private access. Are you visiting? I haven't seen your face around here. Where are you staying?" Entitled mom points at a house that isn't part of the HOA. It was developed after my neighborhood was. Me, "Oh, that house is part of a different neighborhood. That one uses a public access. See where the sidewalk is?" Entitled mom, "Oh, come on. It's right across the street. Just tell us the code." Me, "No, ma'am. This access is paid for by our own taxes. There is a public access literally 50 feet to the left with no code." "No, I demand that you let me and my son through, or I will call the police." Me, "Go ahead. In the meantime, I'm going to use the public access. If you care to join me on the beach, then you can follow me on that access." I left her and her son red-faced like that and walked to the public access. About 10 minutes go by, and I kind of forgot about the pair. I'm putting wax on my board and waiting for my friend to show up in the meantime. I turn around from my board to head down and look at the water and look for a good spot or a rip current. And lo and behold, I see the kid trying to lift my board and his mom grinning at him. Keep in mind, my board is a 9-foot beast that has to weigh at least 50 pounds. My dad got it in Maui 20 years ago from a custom board store that's no longer open, and it cost at least $700 to $800. I run back up to the pair, and my usually good nature was out the window. Me, "Hey lady, get the heck off my stuff." Entitled mom, "How dare you speak to me like that?" Me, "I'll speak to you however I want. Tell your son to stop grabbing at my stuff." At this point, he had it fins up and was sitting on it, which is a massive no-no for surfing. It curves upwards, so if you put too much weight on it, it might snap. I yanked it out from under him, and he fell forward into the sand. Entitled mom, "Get away from my son. I'm going to sue you until you need to file for bankruptcy." Me, "What the heck, lady? I'm defending my property. You can't sue me." Jerk. "My baby just wanted to see it. He wasn't hurting anyone." At this point, her son is bawling, and he is screaming something along the lines of, "Mommy, he broke my rib." Me, "Grow up, kid. Lady, don't touch my stuff again, or I will call the police on you." At this point, a lot of people around me are angry at the lady, and I notice my friend has shown up and has a huge grin on his face. When I look away to make a face at him, the lady tries to yank the board out of my hands. I just let it drop. It falls on her, and she buries herself in the sand. I snatch it back up from her and jerk a thumb at my friend to run to the water. I turn to the kid and I say, "Don't turn out like your mother." I then turn and run towards the water with my friend and fill him in. And from what we can see from the waves, the lady is getting shamed off of the beach by other beachgoers, most of whom knew me and knew I wouldn't fly off the handle unless it was something crazy. That's about it. Nothing much compared to some of the absolute BS I've seen on this sub, but still a wake up to me that people like that exist. Irritating vegan coworker takes office pranks way too far, so I destroy her entire paradigm. At the time, I was a 7-year veteran at a large tech corporation, senior designer on the communications team by then. The senior copywriter went on maternity leave, leaving a temp in her place. Although irritating in a nondescriptive way, she presented well and seemed competent enough. For later context, she was also an Uber dog lover and a staunch and righteous vegan. There were frequent, mutual, and innocent team pranks. Things like replacing a box of diet cookies with a box of Krispy Kremes or covering the laser on someone's mouse. Like, "Oh, you dog, you got me," kind of things. Now let me fix that and let you get back to work. Being desperate for acceptance, new temps started taking things a bit far and seemed to focus pranks directly towards me. Even after a few subtle reprimands from our manager, she continued. Things like slipping inappropriate photos or comments into a PowerPoint presentation on the shared drive I was about to give, or fake crying during morning stand-up just to gauge reactions. Her novelty wore off fast. Fast forward to the morning after my birthday, she knew I was going to be hungover. I got to my desk, red-eyed and thirsty as heck, grabbed my water bottle at my desk, which I always kept full, and started chugging like it was going to save my life. It was straight vodka. At least 2 full swallows before I realized. I go straight for my garbage bin to throw up. The slurry of alphabet soup, at least 6 cans of beer, and God knows what else she put in there, made sure I did hurl. She came in laughing her brains out, taking full claim. I didn't snitch on her, but the story made its rounds to human resources and she was given a stern warning. I would have accepted an apology, even remorse, but not a shred. In fact, she started calling me Pukey McGee to literally no one's fanfare. I let it pass for a few weeks, waiting for the attention to die down. Revenge day finally arrived. She always left at 10 a.m. to get a Starbucks. I took this time to plaster "lost dog" posters anywhere outside the office she might stumble by on her way back. She fell for the bait, asking around, but no one was the wiser. Once she was cozy at her desk, I went to her car to stage a hit and run, with chunks of fatty steak, an old leash and collar, and a bag of fake fur. I went to work. I'd share the pic, but it's long gone, but it was very convincing. Looked like a leash was caught around her rear passenger axle, and the dog got clogged between the tire and wheel well. I left the collar dangling out the back. It didn't take long before even others noticed the lost dog posters or the car and put 2 and 2 together. Eventually, the owner of a white so-and-so with license plate such and such, "Please come to reception," went over the intercom. It's on. It was delicious. She was out in the lot sobbing so hard she was coughing, carefully placing all the chunks into a box. It took her an hour to gather every precious bit, crying the entire time. My theory was that she wanted to return the dog to its owner as best she could before calling the number on the poster. Was a shame there was no owner or dog, but she was too distraught to realize it was fake. I thought for sure the lack of bones would be a near instant giveaway, but to my utter shock, it wasn't. A scenario I wasn't expecting, but welcomed just the same. It was just assumed the dog owner had printed the wrong number on the poster because the remains were never returned. She had the collar and leash cleaned and posted pictures of her own in hopes of finding the owner. Given her reputation, there wasn't much sympathy offered. She took down all her dog lover crap off her desk and kept very much to herself for the remainder of her term. Bonus that she even left early, but not sure if I can take credit for that for certain. Disclaimer: for those that will likely claim she just liked me and wanted my attention, I assure you that was not the case. There's way more background than just this story. Even if it were, this was in adulthood, not grade school. Edit. Thought I should clear up a few things based on the comments. 1. OP is not a vegan, however is a huge animal lover, owns several dogs, cats, and has rescued many animals. OP has nothing against vegans, just the ones that preach it. Relevant distinction for her personality and subsequent reaction, not the reason for revenge. Steak bits was an easier way of describing a bag of butcher scraps at the time. 4. To make it clear to the ones that thought this was petty revenge for minor inconveniences, here's a list of some of the more inconvenient pranks. Replacing water with vodka was just the last straw. Hiding car keys then leaving. Wasted hours of people's lives, but was welcome news to cab companies. Pulling fuses from cars is dangerous. Again, could be fatal. Brake lights, headlights, airbags, all very important, you should think, right? In hindsight, I do regret not coming clean. The believability was not expected and I froze, but the pranks most definitely stopped. When bullies don't get the point from a passive and apathetic authority, the only route is to pop them straight in the nose good and hard. Entitled mom tried to get her daughter my job because I'm chubby. I'm female and home from college. The stay-at-home order in my town is slowly being lifted, so some businesses are finally opening up. My parents require me to have a summer job. I'm blessed enough that I get to keep all the money I earn. My parents just like me to work to gain experience. This will be relevant later, but I'm not a skinny girl. I wouldn't consider myself large either. I'm 5'6" and weigh about 140 to 145 pounds right now, and carry most of it in my hips and thighs. The freshman 15 did hit me hard though, as I used to be 120-ish. So today, after finishing my last online final, my dad called me. He told me that one of his friends who runs a heating/AC company texted him and that they were looking for girls to work in the office, answering phones and stuff. I got excited because that's exactly what I wanted, so I put on a dress, printed a copy of my resume, and drove down. The ladies inside were super nice and asked me to fill out an application, so I sat down to do so. And this is where the entitled mom enters. Here's everyone involved. We've got entitled mom. We've got entitled girl, probably 16-ish. We've got me. We've got desk lady 1. This woman is relatively thin, which will be relevant later. We've got desk lady 2. Desk further back, still in the room. This woman is plus size, which will be relevant later. And we've got the boss of the business. We're in the South, which might be relevant because typically for jobs like this, they're looking for a pretty face to sit behind the counter and talk to customers. This is unspoken though. Yes, it's awful, but hey, I needed a job. So as I'm filling out an application, entitled mom enters with entitled girl. She announces that she's here about the opening and her daughter would like to apply. Desk lady 1 explains that she'll need to fill out an application and hands her one and a pen. They come sit in the lobby right beside me, which I thought was weird, but I didn't say anything. Entitled mom tells me, "Are you here for the job as well?" Me, "Yes, ma'am." You know that little jerk sound people make? I ignored her and went up to ask desk lady 1 a question about the application. It was about how professional one of my references for babysitting was. When I returned and sat back down, entitled mom walked up to the desk. "Does my daughter even really need to fill this out?" Desk lady 1, "It's protocol. Boss will look at all the applications and decide who to call for an interview." "Is he here? I'm sure if he could see my daughter, he'd know who he wanted to call." Desk lady 1, "He is, but he isn't seeing visitors right now." Entitled mom, "How will he know who to hire if he doesn't know what the girls look like?" Lady 1, "Well, he will need to see their references and will make a few calls before he—" "No, my daughter is an aspiring model. She won, insert local pageant, in 2019. He needs to see her to know she's the face he wants to see behind the counter interacting with customers." Lady 1, "I'm not sure what you mean. This isn't a modeling job. Looks don't really matter." "Oh, I know, but they do. Let's face it, boss isn't going to want—" At this point, she leans in closer to Lady 1. "A chubby girl up here, is he?" This whole time, entitled girl is smirking at me in glances as she fills out her application. This caught the attention of desk lady 2 as well as me, and we both looked up at this point. Desk lady 2, "Ma'am, I'm not sure I know what you mean." "Oh, no disrespect. I just know the boss personally and know he'd prefer a new, pretty face around the office. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I think there's no question between my daughter and, well, this young lady, for example." Me, "No offense, honey. Just trying to save you some time." At this point, I'm in tears. I don't know if it was rage or the sting of her insult, but either way, I was not going to let her see me cry, so I quickly got up and handed my application to desk lady 1 before trying to leave. Desk lady 2, a plus-size lady, "Sweetie, wait," talking to me. Lady 2, "You say you know the boss personally, right?" To entitled mom, "Oh, yes, we went to high school together." "And you know him so well that you know he'd prefer a skinny woman behind his desk?" "Well, I didn't say that." She did, "but I'd assume so." "Great. Well, I'm his wife, and I've worked behind this desk for almost 15 years now, and as you can see, I could probably drop a few, and I take personal offense to what you're saying about my husband and this young lady, so I'd like you to wait in the car while your daughter fills out her application." Entitled Mom and Entitled Girl both stormed out at this point. Entitled Girl took her application, so I don't know if she'll apply or not. But both women behind the counter told me that Entitled Mom was a jerk and they had vouched for me with the boss. So I'm hopeful that I'll get the job. Entitled Mom is angry I got my order first because I ordered online. Takes it out on the server, who I shower in cash. I ordered some pasta and mozzarella sticks from a local pizza joint for lunch today. I used their Google checkout to order and pay and put my info into the pickup notes. My phone bings and my food is done, so I scoot a mile down the road to the pizza place to pick it up. I pull up behind a minivan and call the number. Get put on hold while she talks to the Entitled Mom in front of me. I can hear the whole conversation because she's using her car speakers turned up to the max and she's screaming into the steering wheel. Entitled Mom: "I'm here to pick up an order." Pizza Girl: "What was the name on it?" "Helen." Pizza Girl: I'm not seeing an order for Helen. Did you place it online or call in?" "I didn't place it yet." "Sorry about that. I misunderstood you. What can I get you?" "This is why you work at a pizza dive, hun." Rattles off on a long list of stuff, including 3 pizzas. Pizza Girl: "No problem. We'll get that ready for you. It will be done in about 30 minutes. "You can't go any faster? My kids are hungry." "This is the lunch rush. I'll put a flyer in your bag. It has the store number, and next time you can call ahead so we have it ready for you." Ugh. Entitled Mom hangs up. Pizza Girl immediately picks up my line. I give her my name, and she brings out my bag. It's a small paper bag and obviously doesn't contain 3 large pizzas. As soon as she steps out the door, Entitled Mom starts screaming at her. "Is that my food? Why are you giving her my food?" Pizza Girl: "This is her order. She called ahead." "I was here first, and I already told you my kids are hungry." "She ordered ahead. Your order is being prepared. Please be patient." Ugh. She starts yelling at her kids to shut up. At this point, I'm ready to give this girl a medal because I was barely hanging on to my temper. Instead, I thanked her profusely for my food, told her that she was doing an amazing job, and tipped her $20 on an $8 order. Not sure how it went down with Entitled Mom after that, but I hope wherever you are, you're having a better day now, Pizza Girl. Put my friend on the phone now. I manage an automotive repair center in the southern US. This morning, I had a very nice elderly lady walk in. She was wearing the new formal face mask and rubber gloves and asks us to diagnose a few issues that she was having with her vehicle. I proceeded to check her in, and she was elected to sit quietly in the lobby. An hour later, her friend calls, and the following conversation ensues. Cast: "We've got me, and we've got Entitled Old Lady." Me: "Thank you for calling our company. This is me. How may I help you?" Entitled Old Lady: "Yes, this is Entitled Old Lady. My friend was going to bring her vehicle in for y'all to look at, and I wanted to see if she made it in." Me: "Yes, ma'am. She's here, and we're looking at her vehicle now." "That's nice. Can you put her on the phone for me?" "Ma'am, I'm terribly sorry, but with what's going on right now, we're closely following the guidelines, and that includes not sharing phones. I would be more than happy to relay a message to her and relay her response back to you if you would like." "That's ridiculous. She's not sick, and you don't sound sick, so just put her on the phone." I understand that she doesn't appear to be sick, but that's not how this works. We're trying to keep all of our customers and employees safe by following the guidelines, so I will be happy to relay a message to your friend, but again, we're not sharing phones. "Well, bless your heart." This is Southern speak for "you're an idiot." "You are the rudest and most annoying person I've ever had to speak with. Now, unless you want me to speak with your manager, and make no mistake, I will have you fired. Put my friend on the phone now." Me: "Ma'am, I am the manager, and I'm not going to continue tying up the phone lines and my time by arguing in circles with you. Now, unless you would like me to relay a message to your friend, I'm going to have to say have a great day and end this call." "Well, bless your heart. I'm going to call your boss, corporate, my attorney, the local news station." Me: "I've had enough at this point," and rudely interrupted her tirade. "Ma'am, I have the number for the governor's office and our state and local reps, if you would like those also." What? She said the what's kind of slow and drawn out, like she was trying to figure out if I had insulted her or if I was serious.
You know what? We're done. I'll just call my friend on her cell phone.
Click, she hangs up. 2 seconds later, the customer's cell phone rings in the lobby, and she asks entitled old lady why she wasted 5 minutes of my time arguing instead of just calling her on the cell phone to begin with. Customer apologized for the entitled old lady when we were finished with her vehicle and tipped both myself and the tech that worked on her vehicle for our troubles. Entitled mother tries to use me to get family discount at the cinema. Background: I'm currently 21, female, but I've always had a baby face that makes me look younger than I am. I'm often thought to be 15 or 16, and people treat me like a kid until I call them out on it. It can be convenient at times, as up until 2 years ago, if I went to the cinema and just asked for a ticket, age unspecific, they'd just automatically give me a kid ticket. Characters: we've got myself and we've got entitled mom. So I was 16 at the time, but looked around 9 or 10 and was waiting in line at the cinema to get a ticket. I forget what movie, as it was a long time ago. Directly in front of me was a family of 3. At the time, you could get a discount if you had 2 adults and 2 kids by buying a family ticket, which was less than buying 3 separate tickets. There were a few people in front of us, and I'd noticed the 2 parents staring at me and whispering to each other. I wear a lot of anime tops, so I'm fairly used to that behavior, so I mostly ignored it. The family gets to the counter, and entitled mom very loudly stated that they want a family ticket to a U-rated movie. The cashier, of course, tells her you have to have 2 kids for that, at which entitled mom turns around, points at me, and says, "She's with us." I naturally look at her like she's got 2 heads and say, "No, I'm not." Entitled mom puts on that real condescending, smoothie tone adults use with bold kids and says, "Honey, don't act up in public. Just come here." While her family cross their arms and stare at me like I just did something wrong. I glared at her and walked over to the second cashier and said, "1 adult ticket for the movie," and showed them my passport for ID. The cashier, of course, charges me and gives me my ticket. Entitled mom starts spluttering at the worker for allowing kids to buy tickets to those types of movies. Both cashiers just barely hid, rolling their eyes as the one in front of her asked her what tickets she wanted. I trotted off to the necessary screen and left them at the counter to deal with it by themselves. Sir, she doesn't work here. About 6 months ago, I was at my local health food where I regularly shop. Enough to know employees' faces, but not names. I have pretty bad social anxiety, in part due to the fact that I'm a pretty good-looking girl and tend to get a lot of unwanted attention. I usually avoid dressing nice and wearing makeup because I would just rather avoid solicitation as much as possible, despite the fact that I love dressing up. It's also hot where I live, which means it's not always practical to wear full-length garments. On this particular day, I was wearing cargo pants and a tank top. For some background, I've been followed out of the store twice by creeps, luckily with no physical harm thanks to evasion and quick thinking by good Samaritans. Anywho, so I'm in the small health food store, cart in hand, picking up yogurt along with a few other things. An older man in his 70s is standing in front of the yogurt section looking a bit confused. I slip in front of him to grab what I was looking for. Older man: "I'm wondering if you could help me. I'm looking for a special yogurt, but I'm having trouble reading the labels." I don't really mind because I like sweet grandpas, and I'm also in the helping profession. He goes on to explain what he's looking for, and it happens that I know exactly where his item was because I recently was on keto, which requires extensive label reading. He explained it was for his wife because she was on a special diet. Me: "Sure, not a problem. In fact, I was just on a diet that had similar requirements, so I understand how difficult it is to find what you're looking for." I quickly pick out his product and gave some suggestions to pass along to his wife. I had spent a considerable amount of time being polite and wanted to get back to my own shopping. Meanwhile, the store is pretty small, and we had been standing in front of a popular area where people were trying to access the products. Older man: "Oh, thank you. Would you mind helping me find one more thing?" Me: "Sure. I'm looking for XYZ. "Sure." It happened to be in the same approximate area, so I found it and turned away when he asked again. "Oh, can you help me find ABC?" At this point, I was starting to get really uncomfortable because it was pretty clear at this point he did not have a good sense of boundaries. My red flag warning started going off. Employee who knows I'm a regular steps in. "Sir, she doesn't work here." "Oh, I know. I was just asking for help." He turns back to me and keeps talking. Employee: "Sir, Please leave her alone. She's allowed to shop here in peace. If you need help, ask me, but leave her alone."
"Oh no, it's okay. I was just getting her help."
Continues to debate with the employee to get back to me. The employee steps in between older man and myself. It was a bit of a spectacle since there was a foot traffic jam around us. It's a small store and we'd been there for a while. I quickly made my way to the front, hoping I could get out quickly and not have to see the older man again. At this point, I'm feeling a bit shaky and ready to just leave. As I do, another employee who apparently heard most of the exchange also makes her way to the front. She empathizes with me and takes me to an open register to have me checked out quickly. As I'm paying, the cashier starts talking to me. He has no idea what just happened in the back of the store. Cashier: "Nice tattoo. What's it about?" I just ignore him because in my mind, there's no way a cashier on duty would be hitting on a customer in front of another employee. My back is to him and I'm literally checking out while another customer waits in line behind me. A few seconds go by and I look over my shoulder and he's looking at me. Cashier: "Nice tattoo. What's the meaning behind it? It's really nice." I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? You think right now is a good place and time for me to explain my tattoo? You're totally cool with flirting with me right now? I gave him some kind of curt answer, the universal sign of, "Leave me alone, please." Cashier doesn't get the hint and continues trying to talk to me. The cashier checking me out at my register, who had seen my previous encounter, was completely mortified. I rush out of the store and thankfully didn't run into older man. A few weeks later, I caught up with the employee who intervened with older man and explained how I really appreciated him standing up for me. He was glad to have been there and told me it's important that customers feel safe when they shop there. I never saw older man or the flirty cashier again, thankfully. You're too old to play video games, you creep. So I recently went to Walmart. I don't generally go to Walmart because I don't like the atmosphere, but been stuck at home for a while and needed to get some social interaction and wanted to grab some stuff to work on the outside area. Just some plants and soil and whatnot. While walking through Walmart, I decided I would look at the video game section. I was looking at the Nintendo section when I noticed that they have one new Nintendo 2DS XL left. Not only is this the last one, it's the last Nintendo console they have. I was blown away. Recently, I had been doing some DoorDash to earn some extra cash, so I decided to splurge. I grabbed a person and was asking about honoring the GameStop price. Walmart still offers the price match guarantee, and GameStop had theirs $50 cheaper. The person agrees and says he needs to go find someone with keys to open the case. I stand there, waiting and flipping through Reddit for about 10 minutes or so, when a woman, entitled parent, and her son, the brat, and a Walmart associate comes up. I look up, nod my head, and look back at my phone. Out of the blue, I hear the kid shout, "That one, right there!" The shouting had startled me, so I looked up to see the Walmart associate getting ready to unlock the case. I then stop him and say, "Excuse me, I've been here for about 10 minutes waiting for someone to unlock the case to grab that item." Keep in mind that the only item in the case is the Nintendo DS. Entitled parent: "Well, sorry, but we beat you to it. Better luck next time. Maybe you should grow up instead of wasting your time on stuff made for kids." I kid you not, those were her words. No exaggeration. I was immediately furious, and it takes a lot to push me over the edge. How could you talk to a total stranger like that? I wasn't rude in the slightest, just mentioned I had been waiting for someone already. Now I understand. Am I really such a jerk that I'm going to deprive a kid, maybe about 10, of the only DS they have? Well, yes, merely because I had been waiting and she was rude about it. Me: "Ma'am, that was uncalled for. There is no need to be rude. I have been waiting for an associate for almost 15 minutes to get this item, and unless you've been waiting longer, I'm going to stand firm that I have the right to it."
"That's total BS. I've been here for almost an hour and have been waiting for an associate for almost that whole time to unlock the case."
Walmart associate, secretly my hero: "Wait, you just came up to me a few minutes ago. If this guy has been waiting longer, it's his discretion on what he wants to do." Entitled mom:
"I had asked someone before you. Duh."
Not a joke. She said duh.
"Where is the manager? This is ridiculous. I'm not going to tell my son, who has wanted this for over a year, he can't get one because some creep wants to play with toys." I would like to reiterate that few will believe this,
But this story is true, and there is very little to no exaggeration at all. This woman really was this crazy. Brad.
Mom, tell him to get it. Tell him to get it.
At this point, the kid keeps chanting this because the associate has stopped until the manager arrives.
Wow, you are really going to make a child cry over your selfishness. You really are a piece of work, you know that? Do you know how sad it is to let a kid cry because you literally are taking a toy right out of his hand?
Associate. Ma'am, please calm down. There is no need to be nasty. The manager will come and we will see who inquired first. This whole time, I kept completely quiet. Associate, the first one I had asked to open the case, comes up. We'll call him Associate 2. Associate 2. Sorry that took so long. I couldn't find a key. Is there a problem? At this point, the two associates are discussing the situation. I'm texting the insanity of this to my wife, and the kid is crying really loudly. Finally, the manager arrives. Manager goes and talks to associates for a few minutes, and entitled mom answers her phone.
I know I'm taking too long. Some creep is trying to take the last toy, and the moron at Walmart is actually trying to let a grown man take a toy away from a kid. I know, what a joke. It's okay, the manager is here.
Manager then signals for me to walk over away from the kid and the mother. Manager. So, based on what I know of this situation, you were here first. Now, that means it's up to you what you want to do. I understand this lady has been very rude, but I just wanted to talk with you for a second. I am keen to keep things calm over here, so what I can do for you is give you the original discount plus $20 off when the next round comes in if you're okay with waiting. Me. I'll admit I'm not stoked about it, but I appreciate your help. Manager. Thank you. This entire time, entitled parent went off on the associate, claiming that this was by far the most insane thing she's ever seen. Walmart supports creeps like me, and then calling the news and informing them that they let a creep buy all the toys. Manager. Okay, this gentleman has decided to wait for them to come back in stock if you want to take this one. Entitled parent. This is for real.
Are you kidding me? This jerk kept me here for over 20 minutes.
It was more like 10 tops.
Just to finally agree to let my son have it? Forget him.
Manager. I spoke with him and we came to an agreement on terms that worked best for everyone involved. Entitled mom.
Wait, he was the person who caused all this BS? And you offered him free crap? That's BS. I was the one that was subject to sitting here while he played this stupid game. What are you going to do for me, for my time, and letting this make my son so upset?
Manager. Ma'am, you are getting the item. I'm sorry that this took a second, but I had to get all of the information.
That doesn't answer my question. You're letting this loser get all kinds of discounts for literally being a creep and a jerk and making my son cry. But I get nothing but what I deserve in the first place? God, this is insane. And Walmart Corporate will be hearing about this.
At this point, I walked away and chuckled to myself. A week later, I got the call that they had another one in, and I went to pick it up. Wow. Just wow. Update. So a few of you had some questions about missing details. 1. I didn't change my mind as a favor to the manager. He was trying to work with me, and I didn't want to disrespect him. That lady I didn't care about much at all. 2. I understand that Walmart doesn't offer the price match guarantee any longer. I assumed that's why they had offered to price match it, but truth is I asked them and they honored it. Plain and simple. That is a minor insignificant part of the story, so not sure why so many people are offended by this. 3. We exchanged information, phone numbers, when we had our conversation. Didn't really see it necessary to add to the story. Threaten me because you called the wrong place? Have fun in jail. I posted this as a reply to someone else's thread, so I omitted several details and a good portion of the conversation to shorten it. After several suggestions, I decided to post it here and add more details in conversation, which has made it quite a bit longer. It happened before caller ID was standard on phone lines, and I was a lot more long-suffering back then. Otherwise, I would have just hung up when she tried calling again. Also, this was over 20 years ago, so the conversation isn't exact. My work number is a digit off of the local Chuck E. Cheese's. Ours is XXYY, theirs is XYYY. We are an industrial supply company and don't even have a public entrance. We always answer, "Thank you for calling our company. How may I assist you today?" Most of the time, people understand when we tell them our number and the number they're trying to reach. Sometimes they'll double check with, "Are you sure this isn't the right number?" I did have one idiot that knew we were lying because she was using the redial button, and it always dials the right number. She gave up after the 5th call. One time though, a lady insisted on talking to a manager. Me, "Thank you for call." Her,
Put me on with your manager, now.
me, "I am the manager. How may I help?"
We were just there a few minutes ago and were turned away because we didn't have a reservation. What are you going to do about it? I want a refund plus $50 for wasting my time.
Me, realizing she's trying to reach Chuck E. Cheese. "Are you trying to—"
I'm trying
Can actually hear her eyes rolling.
to get a refund plus $50. All of your restaurant workers are idiots.
Me, "Ma'am, if you don't stop interrupting me, I can't—"
Excuse me? You do not get to tell a customer what to do.
Long Karen rant of how rude I am and that I wouldn't be working in food service anymore.
I'm the customer and you are trying to interrupt me? I don't think so.
At this point, I hang up, only to have her call back 5 seconds later. Me, "Thank you," her screaming so loud that the speaker was crackling.
You did not just hang up on me. I'm coming down with my husband and brother to take care of you personally. I hope your insurance is paid up.
Physical threats? Game time. Me. Fake crying voice. "No, please, I'll do whatever you want." Her.
Give me your name, now.
"My last name is Soul. First name is Richie. Just please don't hurt me."
Oh, I won't hurt you. I can't control my husband and brother though.
Me, still fake crying. "Please, no. I need this job and can't work around kids with a black eye." Her.
Well, you should have thought about that before disrespecting me. A black eye will be the least of your problems.
Me. "Sorry, I didn't mean to do so. Can we just forget this? I can leave the refund at the counter so you don't even have to see me."
Nope. You made your bed. Now you get to lie in it.
Maybe you'll remember this beating when you think about being disrespectful to another customer. This lady's just evil.
Also, I want it in cash.
Throughout this entire exchange, she never once gave me her name, so I had to ask. Me. "Let me just get your name for the paperwork." Her screaming.
Let me? Did you seriously just try to tell me what to do? Have you learned nothing yet?
Another long rant about how people working in public businesses are worth less than something you scrape off your shoes.
I will have your job for this disrespect.
Me. "Please, forgive me. I meant no disrespect." Her.
No, I'm not giving you my name. You'll know me when we get there, you little weasel. We'll be there in 30 minutes. Get ready to clock out and get your affairs in order.
Slams the phone down. I called the manager, first name basis, because we were constantly getting calls for each other at Chuck E. Cheese, and told her to expect 3 people who will demand and possibly get physical to talk to a Richie Soul. She laughed and said, "That's a good one, but you missed the obvious fake name for our establishment, Charles Formaggio." Anyway, I know who you're talking about. I'll have the cops waiting for her. Thanks. An hour later, I got a call from the manager laughing her head off because the lady was in there yelling about wanting to talk to someone named Richie Soul and screaming that Richie Soul owes her some money. The police were there and arrested her and the 2 men with her on outstanding warrants. Edit. I realized last night that some people may not be familiar with Chuck E. Cheese. It's a pizza place with an arcade, an animatronic band, mainly for kids to celebrate birthdays. They require a non-refundable deposit to reserve their party rooms. Apparently, this lady thought she had a reservation, was denied, and felt that she was owed her deposit back, plus something extra. Entitled mom snatches toy from a paraplegic kid's hands. This happened in December of 2018. I help a local NGO giving kids that are in special care homes and hospital gifts during Christmas time. We get a lot of presents, which is nice, and sometimes people are very generous and buy pretty expensive and giant toys. This is not that nice. Don't get me wrong, I love people who want to help, but when we get these awesome toys, we know it would be a problem with the kids because they would get jealous when someone gets something better. Giveaways are normally done in a Christmas party or event, so everyone sees what everyone gets. As a safe measure, we decided that the best toys would be given in raffles before we give the rest, so that anyone has the chance to get them. This prevents most problems. Most. Main story. We were in this small pediatric hospital with about 25 to 30 kids in our party and had just ended the raffle segment. A 10-year-old kid we will call Charles had won an enormous Lego set, a pirate ship of some sort if I remember correctly, which was roughly his own size. It was funny seeing him carry it on his lap. As you may have guessed by the title, Charles was a wheelchair user because he could not move his legs. Then our real, totally not fake Santa came and gave away the other kids their presents, which are randomly distributed, only taking age and gender into account. Charles and the other winners didn't receive another one, just to make it clear. Kids were starting to play with their toys, with us volunteers and their parents watching. Then Karen appeared. She approached Charles and started talking to him. By the face he was making, it was obvious the poor kid was scared, and with his mom nowhere in sight, I decided to intervene. Consider I'm a 26-year-old guy with a full beard dressed in an elf leotard. Very intimidating indeed. Elf. Hello, miss. What can I help you with? Karen.
Oh, nothing, sweetie. Just talking to the little one here.
Me. Are you his mom? Karen.
Oh, no. Thank God, no.
Me internally. This jerk.
My beautiful Tyler's over there.
Me to Charles. So what is this lady speaking to you about, kiddo? Charles. She wants my toy. Me. Sorry?
Oh, no. It's not what you think. I was trying to trade with him. See, my poor kid got this Superman,
a very average plastic action figure.
But he is not that into superheroes, yet he loves Legos. So I thought, why not trade them? You like superheroes, don't you?
Charles. Not really. Karen.
But all boys love Superman.
Me internally. You just said yours didn't. Me. Well, miss, this is Charles' toy, but I think we have some others left in the bag. We can go check if you like.
That's awesome. Do you have another Lego set?
Not really. This one was a special surprise, but maybe your kid would like a car, a ball, or another action figure. Karen.
Then thanks, but no thanks. I will take this one.
She tries to take the box, but Charles wheels himself backwards and is now hugging it tightly. Karen.
You little...
Me. Stop it, miss. It's obvious he doesn't want to trade it, and he won it fairly.
Who cares? He can't even play with it. Look at him.
Me. I see he can use his hands, so stay back. I put myself in the middle of them. Karen. Weird high-pitched sound.
I don't care what you say. My boy deserves it more. He's not some useless, crippled...
Actual words. She pushes me aside, and before I can react, she rips off the box from Charles' arms and starts running. Thankfully for us, Santa Claus is coming to town. Our real, totally not fake, Santa is able to intercept her. Her shouts had alerted him about what was happening, and he came to check on us. Santa.
What is happening, madam?
Karen.
Your employee was trying to steal my boy's toy.
Apparently, she forgot Santa was the one who gave the presents in the first place. Santa.
I am pretty sure that Lego set belongs to the wheelchair kid that is crying over there.
Karen.
For all I care, you are no one to tell me what my kid deserves as a present, and you are no one to stop me from getting it.
Santa.
Actually, I am pretty sure I am. Let me present myself. I am Dr. Nicholas Saint.
Name changed for privacy.
Head pediatrician and manager of this hospital. Unless you want to be kicked out of the premises, you will give that toy back immediately.
Who would say? Our real, totally not fake Santa was actually a fake, and he was also an actual manager. What a Christmas miracle for poor Karen. The woman was basically paralyzed, so Santa took the toy and returned it to Charles. Santa.
Where is your mom, kid?
Charles. My dad, he is in the other building, filing some papers, I think. Santa.
Well, while he comes back, our bearded elf friend here,
that's me,
is going to take care of you, yes?
Charles. Yes, Dr. Santa. I think he had partially heard what the doctor said to Karen.
Perfect. Now for you, speaking to Karen. You are on the naughty list. Come with me. I am sure our social services office would love to hear about this incident.
Karen.
What? Please no.
The two left the room with Karen crying like a spoiled kid. I took care of Charles until his father arrived and told him what happened. He thanked me in return, and then we all could continue to enjoy the party. On a side note, I had the chance to meet Tyler, Karen's kid. He was mad about his mother trying to trade his Superman, which she had thrown into the floor before leaving. As far as I could see, he really liked superheroes after all. He's your brother. My dad remarried when I was 7 to a woman who is mostly fine, but very spoiled and a terrible mother, unless it's on her terms. They had my little brother when I was 13. I was in boarding school at the time and eventually ended up being brought home to help her out and go to the local school. I'd be woken up by little bro every morning. I'd get him breakfast, get him dressed, get ready for school, and then have to wake the stepmother so she could look after him while I went to school. As soon as I finished school, she'd leave the house and leave me with him. I'd have to take him with me everywhere I went, do the chores around the house, literally raise him. Anyway, school only goes to a certain age, and I had to leave again to continue my education. I missed him like a son. I moved to a single-bed apartment, and they came to visit where I live. They were staying with her cousin, who has a lovely place not too far from where I lived, and easy access on public transport. I didn't drive. Initial plan was that I would go there and hang out for the weekend. I get there with my bags, and as this was a few years ago, the conversation went along these lines. Stepmother:
I'm going to go out tonight with some friends.
Me: no worries, little bro and I can chill here.
It would be better for me if you took him to your place.
Mind, I had just got there with my bags on public transport. Me: a pushover. Okay, I guess he can sleep on a blow-up mattress. I call the boyfriend and he comes to get the little bro and I and takes us back to my apartment. He plays with us for a bit and goes home. Around 4 the next day, Saturday, my stepmother calls and says she'll collect little brother on Sunday, and can I meet her somewhere halfway as she doesn't want to drive all the way to my house. Again, I say fine. I want to spend time with my little brother because even though she's a crazy lady, he's an ace kid and I love him. Go to meet her on Sunday. We have the following conversation. Me: it's little brother's birthday soon. What are you getting him?
He wants a PlayStation.
Me: while you're here, I'd like to take him to the toy store and let him choose a present.
Oh, well, why don't you just buy it for him if you're going anyway?
Note: I am an 18-year-old paying for her own apartment, studying full-time and working nights. I haven't taken a dime from my family since I was 15. I'd saved up just to get him a present and had a budget, and getting him a present meant that I would have another month in shoes for work that had holes. Me: I can't afford that. Stepmom:
you can afford an apartment, plus he's your brother.
I was gobsmacked. There's no great comeuppance. I just said again I couldn't afford it and changed the subject. I still wish, 15 years later, that I'd said, he's your son. Crazy lady blames me because she can't read a sign. So last year I was working at a car valeting lot in an office business park. On this business park, we clean nearly 70 people's cars, so it's hard to remember who's who. However, on this very special day, this happened. There were 4 of us working. We've all just arrived to the lot, set up all the equipment, unpacked all we needed, and the other 3 went to the surrounding offices to collect keys from office workers who have used us for years and trust us to move their cars ourselves. One of us always stays with the equipment just to be safe. When a woman slowly drives up past our valeting lot, seemingly looking for a specific office building, when she pulls up right next to me. Now, I'm 6 feet tall, wearing the red polo of the company, on my phone and checking my bank account to see if I got paid from the previous month. Pay was due the day before. Back turned to the woman at this point. Not being rude, just knowing that we have signs up saying what we are and how to contact us to book your car in for a wash. I hear her lightly cough 2 times, but think nothing of it. Then she clears her throat a little louder for me to turn my head to look at her for a quick second when she grabs me by my shoulder, turning me around, looking me up and down, then smacks my phone out of my hand and yells,
"Well, I should have known. Ignoring me for your phone. That phone shouldn't even be in your hands or at this place of work. It should be in your locker."
I look at her, confused, like what the actual heck, lady? I shrugged my shoulder to get her off me, stepping back, trying to comprehend what had just happened. I'm sorry, she cuts me off.
"Here, take my car, you inconsiderate brat, and park it up at Office 3, Bay 6. My personal parking space. Nowhere else. Office 3, Bay 6.
She walks off towards her car. I pick up my phone and check it over for any damage. It's fine. When she storms back over towards me, we'll call this woman Crazy Lady. We've got me, we've got the site manager, and we've got my boss. Crazy Lady walks up to me again, shaking her head, looking like she's frothing from her mouth in anger and pure rage, snatching my phone away from me and throwing it away from us. Me: what the heck, lady? That's a brand new phone.
I told you, you shouldn't have it here.
Me: It's my own personal phone, and you have—" She cuts me off.
I don't give a hoot if it's your phone or not. I'm in charge here, and I'm telling you now, take my car and park it up in Office 3, Bay 6.
Crazy lady then proceeds to throw her keys at me and points to her car before yelling,
"Now move it."
Out of instinct, I caught the keys, then said, "I don't know what you think we do," but I turned around with my arms out. "But we don't move people's cars around for them unless," she screams at me, a literal primal scream.
"Go move my car now, you jerk. I'm going to the manager and getting you written up for laziness and refusal to work."
Me, listen, miss.
"Stop talking back to me and move the car."
At this point, the site manager arrives on scene to check around all the offices, make sure everyone's okay, and see if there's anything that might need some work done, so he can organize any repairs. He's a nice guy. I tried to explain again to the lady we don't just move cars around for anybody, and that they have to be booked in for a car wash. Tried being the key word. When site manager approaches, "Hey, Sam," not my real name. "Who else is on with you today? And do you have your passes this time?" Me, "Hey, site manager. Yeah, they're in the office." Points to our little shack where we take breaks and keep keys organized. And it's just me, Brian, and John today.
"Who the heck cares about that? Move my car already."
Site manager looks visually confused. Excuse me, who are you?" Crazy lady then puts her hand over site manager's mouth and yells,
"I'm first. Wait your turn."
Then moves her hand and slaps him.
Now move the car."
Site manager dropped to his knee, holding his face when my boss comes running over. "Boss, what the heck just happened?" He immediately tries helping site manager. Crazy lady,
"Finally, someone in charge and control. These two men just insulted me and berated me for about 5 minutes. I just wanted my car moved into my,"
she looks at me with a deathly glare,
"Office 3, Bay 6 private parking spot, so I can go to a meeting, and these two just made me late. The foul-mouthed punks. They should be fired and kicked off this site."
Boss, lady, why did you slap him? I saw it happen. And why would he move your car? My phone pings from the floor. Boss turns around and looks. And whose phone is that? Me, it's my— Crazy lady cuts me off again.
"It's mine. That little jerk stole it and threw it on the floor. Then continued to insult me with him."
Site manager, "Look, lady, I want you to take your keys back." Takes the keys from me and drops them on the floor in front of her. "And get the heck off my site, or I swear I'll call the cops and mess your day up."
"You can't tell me what to do. You're a nobody. While me, I'm somebody."
Site manager, "I run and manage this entire business park." Boss, "It's true, ma'am. He's the one in charge. I just run the valeting bay here." Boss went to pick up my phone during this and handed it back to me. "I believe this is actually yours as well. Not hers, right? Unless she's got you on her lock screen." Me, "Yeah, thanks." Quickly putting it in my pocket. Crazy lady just stands there, dumbfounded, seemingly trying to process everything going on, before picking up her keys and dangling them in front of me.
"Just go move my car, and I won't have to call the police."
Site manager then grabs the keys and pockets them. "Ma'am, he's not moving your car. And in fact, you're coming with me till the police arrive. You've not only treated him like dirt, you clearly have something wrong with you. And you even slapped me for no apparent reason." "What was the office number again?" To me, "Office 3. "Oh, the newest one, eh? Convenient. They're also 2 months behind on rent. That wouldn't have to be your doing, would it?" To crazy lady, boss calls for the police before moving away from the situation. Crazy lady,
"Wait, what do you mean you're waiting with me for the cops? I'm calling them on you."
Site manager, "Did she hit you at all or just me?" Me, "No, just through my phone, twice." Site manager grabs the crazy lady by her arm. "All right, ma'am, I'm placing you under citizen's arrest till the police come. You can come to my office and we'll show the officers the cameras and everything that's happened." Crazy lady slaps him again and tries running to her car, but her heel breaks off her shoe and she falls to the ground, screaming for help and that we're trying to hurt her. Site manager helps her back up right as the police arrive on scene. When boss man says to me, "Come on, we've got work to do," and we walk away. About 2 hours later, the crazy lady gets put into a cruiser, kicking and screaming before yelling at me,
"This is your fault."
Apparently, she kept resisting arrest in the office and denying everything, even though it was all caught on camera. A tow truck later arrived after they left with her and towed her car away. Crazy lady was never seen again to this day a year later. The site manager told us at the end of the day that she doesn't even work at that office or any office on that site and was truly just crazy. The story of Karen and Kevin who won a battle and lost the war. This story is about 5 years old, and some of it, as you will read in the end, is still rolling. Probably will for a long time. It starts with Mrs. P as principal because that's what she is. Mrs. P started as a special needs kids caretaker, studied through the years of work, and graduated a doctorate in special education. After 20 years of experience in this, she was asked by the council of a medium-sized city to open and run a special needs school in the city. She accepted the offer, and after 4 years, she had a school with 150 kids in it. For special education school, that is a huge number. Such schools need way more people than regular schools, not just teachers, but also other caretakers, and the job isn't always clean and easy. So naturally, Mrs. P is always looking to hire. Then comes Karen. Karen just finished her college and got a degree in education consulting, top of her class. Her professor was on Mrs. P's school board, and she recommended her with very warm words. Karen was basically hired before she even sent her resume. Karen is married to Kevin, of course, who finished his law studies top 5 in his class, and now is doing an internship in a big law firm, awaiting his license to practice the law. Basically, their future is laid bright and clear. All they have to do is not mess up on the path to a nice, rich life. Mrs. P accepted Karen to work in the school and announced to her that she would start working on August 20th, about a week before the school year starts, as the staff needs to organize the school for the opening of the year. Karen protests that she is a consultant, not another lowlife that comes to mop the floor. Mrs. P is upset by her attitude, but Karen is top of her class and supposedly the best in the field, so she just smiles and says, "Staff starts to work on August 20th. You are staff too, so be here on that date." Karen isn't happy, but well, that's life. That pre-opening week, the staff will never forget. While teachers and nurses and other members all worked together hard to get the school up to shape, including painting the walls, setting equipment, and other chores you don't learn in college, Karen fixed her own room, sat in it all day, and played with her phone. Needless to say, she wasn't very popular among school staff. But time went on, school opened on time, and things started to get into their regular routine. Karen was causing more and more issues. She refused to fill in regular reports about her activities, was not available to meetings with staff and parents, and all in all, was a total entitled Karen. Mrs. P tried to talk to her again and again, to no avail. Eventually, Mrs. P asked the professor, the one who gave Karen her degree, the one who was on the school's board, to sit with Karen daily and coach her on how to actually work and function in a real school environment, as apparently she didn't learn that in college. But even that didn't help. Karen was hated by all of the school staff, and her work was done poorly and getting worse every week. Mrs. P had a meeting every week with Karen and the professor to discuss her performance and how to do better. Meanwhile, important reports and other documents were not filled, and the care to the students was getting worse every day. Until eventually, a parent filed a complaint about the poor treatment his kid got, and the board became aware of the issues. A meeting was set with the board, Mrs. P, and Karen. The professor promised Karen that if she will set orders to her paperwork and act respectfully, it would be all right. Karen knew she was on the hook now, but just couldn't stop being a Karen. So the day of the meeting comes, and Karen is a no-show, no call. She just didn't come that day, and the day after, and the week after. Without Karen, the board can only hear what Mrs. P has to say, but they already knew it, so the meeting is delayed to a time when Karen will show up. Needless to say, this doesn't help her case at all. Anyway, Mrs. P and the professor tried to get Karen on the phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Eventually, Mrs. P has no choice. Karen is a no-show, no call for over a week. She has to have a really good explanation to not get fired now. She calls Karen and leaves a message in her voicemail that she hadn't heard from her in over a week. She is very worried, and please be in contact ASAP as finance wants to cut her pay. Finally, Karen called in. She has been sick the whole time. She will return to work in 2 days. Good. Mrs. P marked the date and set a meeting with the professor and Karen first thing in the morning. If Karen is sick and has a doctor's note, she will not be fired, but she will get some strong talk about the no-call issue. The day comes. Mrs. P and the professor sit in her office waiting for Karen to come. She didn't come. Mrs. P tries to call her and gets the voicemail again. She is furious. The professor is furious. Karen has set a new record in upsetting and wasting everyone's time. Karen shows up 2 hours late, and Mrs. P calls her to a meeting immediately, before anything else. She calls the professor to come. The professor canceled other plans she had to come in, and the meeting finally starts 3 hours late. Thankfully, Karen had a doctor's note. She is okay on that, but she is going to get the strong talking to now. About 10 minutes into the meeting, Karen burst into tears. The meeting is stopped to cool things down, but not over yet. After a few minutes, everybody comes back into the room and Karen opens.
I'm still not okay. I still feel sick. I want to go home now.
Mrs. P is silent, and the professor comments, "As a board member, I must say, as long as you are sick, your job is safe. But it is your first year. You have not saved anything in sick days or vacation days. You will not be paid for this." Karen just said,
"We will see about that,"
collected her things, and left. Karen is sick for another 2 weeks, and her position is vacant. Mrs. P does what she can to fill the void, as do others. But it's clear an employee is missing, and the position needs to be filled. Eventually, Mrs. P calls Karen again to ask how she is and when she will be back. And Karen says she can't handle the pressure and wants to quit. Mrs. P is stunned by this. Karen is only in her first year. Quitting in the middle will risk her future, and finding another consultant in the middle of the school year is almost impossible. But she keeps her thoughts to herself and just said she doesn't think it's necessary or wise, just feel better and come back. But Karen doesn't come back, and after 2 more weeks of absence, her husband calls in to ask why no money has been paid. He gets the obvious answer. Karen has no right to paid sick leave. He gets angry and promises to check his options, which in lawyers' terms is, "I want to sue you." Now it's clear that the bridge was burned and Karen will not be back. Mrs. P started looking for a replacement, and the options aren't great. Eventually, she convinced a retired consultant to come back from retirement just to save this year. The replacement starts working but can't get paid. The position is still officially occupied by Karen, who is still on sick leave. Board members are now calling Karen, and it's clear she will not talk to Mrs. P. They ask her to come back, and when she refuses, they ask her to submit her resignation to allow them to keep the school running. Karen claims she is ready to come back only if she will be paid for all her sick leave, but nobody's willing to pay that. The mess is growing bigger and bigger. The parents start to hear rumors, and overall climate is not very good. Until finally Kevin, Karen's husband, calls in and says he wants to sue the school for the payment. He gets to talk to the city lawyers that explain to him that Karen cannot sue the school or the city while she is still sick or still registered as an employee. She has to stop one of those conditions. The day after, Karen is at school with a standard resignation letter stating her mental and health issues caused by the toxic environment as her reasons. Finally, after more than 2 months, the position is clear and filled right away. What was just rumors by now has become fact. Parents were aware that something went on. Finally, in a group chat of parents with Mrs. P, they ask her what this was all about. Mrs. P replies that Karen has resigned due to her mental illness. Kevin did try to sue the city. It went to mediation before court hearing. The mediator saw the material and strongly advised Kevin to withdraw. Kevin listened, and the whole thing was forgotten for a while. 3 months passes. School was doing okay when an email from Karen landed in Mrs. P's inbox. In short, dry, legal language, Karen informs Mrs. P that she knows she was slandering her in public. She has screenshots as evidence that she claimed she had mental issues, and that is all not true at all. Karen demands Mrs. P to apologize in public and clarify that Karen did not have any mental issues, and her resignation was due to professional disputes. Mrs. P was shocked. She knew for a fact that Karen was, let's just say, not 100% okay up there, and she had her resignation letter to prove it. Going this way from Karen was beyond stupid. Mrs. P, however, did the right thing and sent a letter to the school board asking them what they think should be done. School board just hears the words legal actions and freaked out. They didn't want any of this. They demanded Mrs. P just apologize and let it all be gone. But Mrs. P was not willing to admit wrongdoing of anything, as she knew she did everything right. The board kept his opinion, claimed Mrs. P is being pointlessly stubborn, and they will not cover any legal matters in that issue, which is against Mrs. P's contract. All legal liability that she has within her work should be covered by her employer. That meant her job was on the line now, and Mrs. P was determined to fight back and win. But without the city resources, fighting a slander lawsuit is expensive, and with her job at risk, it will not be easy. Mrs. P went again to the parents' forum, let them know that she had some personal legal issues, and asked if they knew who could help. One of the parents, a lawyer, agreed to help without pay. Note, it is highly unprofessional to ask parents to help in personal issues, but it wasn't really a personal issue, it was a school issue, and that parent lawyer noted that after he was informed the details. The lawyer agreed Karen and Kevin had no ground to sue, but said that if they sent the email, their intention is to sue anyway, and nothing Mrs. P would do will stop them. So it was better if Mrs. P just ignored it and let them dig their own grave. And digging they dug. A week after the first letter, a new letter arrived, by regular mail, in an envelope. It was printed on Kevin's law firm letter, stated that matters should be resolved by public apology or they will sue. Even the lawyer did not believe someone in a large, prestigious law firm is that dumb, but here's the letter to prove it. A trial will take time and will cost money, even if he is doing it for free. Not to mention that Mrs. P would be fired no matter the result. They had to find another solution. The lawyer figured out that stupid people need stupid solutions. He thought about it for a while, and then remembered he had a classmate in college who went working for that firm. He called that classmate and asked him how he is, now that they are both well after their college years. Apparently, his classmate worked hard and got to become a junior partner in the firm. When the lawyer mentioned the case, his friend was surprised. He hadn't heard about this case, and he should have, as lawyers in large firms gossip like old women. And a slander suit against special education school? It's the most raunchy gossip in town, but also a PR nightmare. He and the other partners would never take a case like this. It will make them look like greedy lawyers who would skin off anybody for a penny. Not good publicity. He promised to look around and check what is going on in the firm. It didn't take him long. The next day he called the lawyer back. He found out no lawyer in the firm was aware of this case. He figured Kevin used the firm paper to send the letter, but no lawyer above him was involved. Good news for our lawyer. Together, they planned the right answer to Kevin and Karen, the answer that will shut them out for good. The lawyer called Mrs. P and told her his plan. It was easy, simple, and malicious. She didn't like it, but agreed to it as it was the best and fastest way to resolve the situation. Next thing, the lawyer drafted his settlement agreement. He called Kevin and asked him if it will do. The agreement stated that Mrs. P will apologize to Karen in the most public way she can, and will post all the legally related papers alongside the apology in the school webpage. The agreement stated that the apology can come in any form, as long as it can be searched in Google search and has a link from the school webpage. It also stated that after the apology, Karen and Kevin will not be able to sue the school ever again, and will have no further demands from Mrs. P or the school ever again. The last clause stated that if any unrelated issues will come out of this agreement, Karen and Kevin will be liable for any consequences and the school can demand any losses it suffers from them. Kevin agreed to all the terms. Within 2 hours, Karen and Kevin signed the agreement and the next stage was ready to launch. The lawyer came to Mrs. P's office with the equipment he needed and the apology transcript. He set a video camera and Mrs. P read her apology. She opened with an introduction, who Mrs. P is, what she has done so far in her career, her degrees and recommendations. She also made an introduction to Karen, her career so far, her degree and recommendation. None so far. And after the introduction, she explained that Karen claims she left the school in the middle of the school year because of professional disagreement, and any other comment Mrs. P or any others have claimed about Karen's health and mental issues is false, and Mrs. P is sorry if Karen or anybody else heard and if Karen's feelings were hurt. In essence, anyone who sees the video understands exactly who Karen is And even if Mrs. P didn't say it in words, it was clear she thought very bad things about Karen. Right after it was finished, the video was uploaded to the school's YouTube channel, and a sub-site under the school website was created showing the video and all the related documents, including the threatening letter Kevin sent in his firm paper. A link was sent to Kevin with a short line, "That settles the matter. Don't contact us ever again." Karen and Kevin had won the battle. A month passed, and Kevin suddenly got fired from his firm. Apparently, he wasn't in a position to send a letter threatening lawsuit under the firm paper without any higher-up lawyer watching him. Sending it like that for a case he managed himself was plain fraud. He was reported to the bar, but not to let a scandal and PR disaster come out. He was just let go and no further punishment was taken. The firm sent a letter to the school admitting the fraud and asking the school to remove the threatening letter Kevin sent. The school graciously agreed and Kevin's letter was removed, but the firm letter admitting Kevin's fraud was published instead. Kevin was done in the business. Any lawyer who he came to looking for a job asked him why he left the big firm before he got even past the first stage, and a simple search of his name showed he committed fraud against a special education school from all places. Nobody would hire him. Meanwhile, Karen kept looking for a job in her field. She had to wait until a new school year would begin. Her college professor was not willing to write her any recommendation, and she had to explain the missing year in her resume to any principal. A few school principals heard she worked with Mrs. P and called her to ask about Karen, which Mrs. P only said that due to legal issues, she can't talk about Karen, and it is all explained in the legal section of the school website. That was enough. Any principal who knows Karen sued her former school will not dare to hire her. Karen lost that school year, and to support herself, began looking for other jobs. She found the job as a secretary in an office that didn't Google her name, and worked there for a couple of months until the manager got bored one day and decided to search Karen's name. She was fired the next day for a minor mess-up. It's been more than 5 years since this happened. Kevin is a lawyer in a sleazy firm, hired mostly by low-life criminals. He loses most of his court cases and is known as the low-life lawyer for the low-life criminal. Karen is still looking for a job. She can't hold a job for more than 6 months before she gets fired for petty things. They both know very well why they're doing so poorly in life. Kevin sent another threatening letter demanding to remove all mentions of his name and Karen's name from the school's website. He also asked to remove the video. The lawyer just told him that it is what they agreed on, and if he wants to renegotiate, he will demand Kevin to pay for damages. He didn't specify what damages, and Kevin didn't ask. He gave up. Karen and Kevin admitted defeat. They lost the war. Mrs. P eventually removed the video from the school site and set it as private on YouTube, but all the legal letters are still posted there and will be there until, well, maybe forever. What time do you get off work? This happened a couple of weeks ago, but the party involved tried to come in today and I had to tell them they were banned. So I decided to share my experience with y'all. It was the end of a 60-plus hour work week at the gas station / convenience store I work at. Customers have been more aggressive than they usually are, making my days longer and more strenuous than they usually are. The only saving grace is knowing I'm off the next day, and I have a six-pack waiting at home, but it wasn't that bad that day. Then the last hour of my shift rolls around. This kid hops out of the passenger seat of someone's car and walks in. I greet him like anybody else as he approaches the counter. Customer, let me get a pack of Newport Smooth 100s. I walk over to grab them as I was going to ask for an ID. I'm interrupted by him. Customer, actually, do you have a carton of them things out back? I check the drawers and I don't find any for the brand he was looking for. Me, no, sorry, just these two on the shelf. Customer, why not? Me, the governor recently passed a law banning the sale of all menthols starting at the end of the month, so we stopped ordering them. Customer, oh, all right. Give me the last two then. Me, sure. Can I just check your ID? Hold on. He runs out back to the car. He's at the driver's seat window talking to someone. A woman emerges out of the car and walks in with him. I'm assuming she's his mom. Me, hi, how are you? Customer's mom, give me a pack of Newports. Before I could speak, she interrupts again. You got a carton? Me, no. Why not? So I explain why we don't have a carton of them things anymore, as I did previously to her son. She rolls her eyes.
That's stupid.
I nod in agreement because she's not wrong. Customer's mom.
Whatever. Give me the last 3.
Me. Unfortunately, I can't sell you these tonight.
Why?
Because you had your son come in and ask for these exactly same cigarettes, and when I asked for an ID, he went out and got you. I can't do the secondhand sales for these products.
They're for me, though.
Me. That might be the case, but because you sent him in here and he didn't show an ID, it looks like you're buying them for him.
I already told you they were for me.
I still can't sell you these, so I'm gonna decline the sale tonight. I'm sorry. So she stands there at the counter staring at me as more people come in and the line behind her grows. Me. Ma'am, I need you to step aside. I have other customers waiting to be rung up. She steps aside and her son starts chiming in as I'm ringing other people up. Son. So why can't you sell us them? I ignore him. Son. Hey, yo! I'm getting annoyed, so I respond. Me. Look, I already explained to both of you why I'm refusing the sale. If you're not going to get anything else in the store, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. I apologize to the customer I was ringing up, and before the next person can walk up, the son steps up to the counter. Son. Give me a scratch ticket. Me. Sure, did you find your ID? He scoffs. Forget you! Me. Okay, excuse me. I motion for the next customer to come up. As I'm in the middle of this next transaction, she has more to say. Customer's mom.
Actually, you can't refuse a customer.
If they want something, you legally have to give it to them. Me. I absolutely have the right to decline a customer for any or no reason.
No, you don't.
I've officially given up being professional at this point and just start talking as I normally do. Me. All right, you're still not getting those Newports though.
Get me the manager.
Me. Not here.
When is he in?
She's here in the morning. Also, managers aren't always men.
You really don't know crap. You just started.
All right. The mom grabs her son by the arm and starts pulling him away towards the door.
Don't worry, baby. I know the owner.
Actually, they both stop. We don't have an owner. We're a corporate store. They continue towards the door and are outside. The son pops his head back in. Yo, what time you get off work? Me. In an hour? Son. I bet. I'll see you and see how mouthy you are then. Me. Haha. Okay, buddy. Customer. Jerk. Me. Yup. The store's finally empty and it's been for a few minutes, so I step out for a cigarette. When I come back out, they're parked in the fire lane staring at me. I just wave and continue smoking until another customer comes in. I love my job. It's your wedding? I'll wear pajamas. My biological mom left when I was 3, and I was raised by my dad and my crazy ex-stepmother. I was sheltered from my biological mom's crazy until I was an adult. It took me growing past a teenager to realize she was stuck in that teenage mentality. She's very attention-seeking and leans hard into melodramatics. Her fondness for drinking also exacerbates her melancholy, and I've had many a late-night phone calls from her about how she's so lonely. She never should have left my father. This is all my crazy ex-stepmom's fault, blah blah blah. She's also permanently broke and always looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, and then is surprised when she gets ripped off. Anyway, I moved from Australia to England for love, and also because I was a tiny bit obsessed with Oscar Wilde. We very happily told my family when we were engaged, and because of the requirement to travel, we chose a date quickly, 18 months in the future. Those that have planned a wedding know there is lots involved and it can be stressful. Biological mom was a nightmare, trying to butt her nose in about my dress. Apparently it was wrong that I took my mother-in-law to be instead of her, even though she lives in a different country. Location. We chose Scotland because it's our happy place, but she wanted it to be down south, London way, so she can do tourist stuff, and so on. Anyway, knowing that she's broke, I limited costs where possible. She needed to only pay for her flight over and her rooms on the wedding weekend. We started to talk about what she was going to wear. Something about my mom. She has a back tattoo. It covers her entire back and was done by some bikers in a garage and is pretty bad. She sends me pictures of slinky, backless ball gowns. Genuinely, these dresses she's sending are awful. I don't really mind what people wear usually, but I did want to be able to look at my wedding photos and not cringe, so I offered a solution. As she misses out on wedding dress shopping, I offered to take her out when she arrived and buy the dress for her. Now, I had quite the army coming out for our wedding, and my sister, who was my maid of honor, came out 3 weeks early to help. I also had a woman coming from Oz who was close to my heart and one of my mom's friends. I thought the 4 of us could all go dress shopping together. Boy, this was a mistake. My mom pettily sniped that my sister and I were paying too much attention to her friend. We weren't, and started pouting about having to try on dresses. She was acting like a kid, and my patience ran thin, but the goddess that is my sister smoothed the ruffled feathers and finally got my mom in some dresses. Let's just say, anything I had chosen was wrong and awful, and my mom could not understand that she was 20 kilos heavier than she thinks she is, so certain styles just did not suit her. Finally, a dress was found. I go to pay. She walks off with the bag. That's it. No thank you, no acknowledgement, and this was not a cheap dress. Just took the bag and complained that she was hungry and that her friend had been able to have lunch and she hadn't. Day of the wedding arrives. It was great. Husband and I looked amazing. We were surrounded by people we love and that loved us, and we were happy. They were having a boogie on the dance floor, and I turn around to see my mom in her pajamas. Apparently, her dress was too uncomfortable, so she went to the rooms to change into her pajamas. Not something nice, but still comfortable. Pajamas. The biggest annoyance, they didn't even match. Karen gets escorted out of my water park. So I was a lifeguard at the water park section of my state's big amusement park. I was just about to turn 17 and school was out for the summer, so my mom finally allowed me to get a job. I applied at the amusement park as a lifeguard because I am very much the kind of person that loves water. I go through training. I learn CPR and Heimlich maneuver. That way I can work as a certified employee. First day the water park portion is open, it's packed to max capacity. Wave pool is completely full. Lines are backed up for slides, and queue lines at the food shacks are winding into spirals. It's a mess. So since it was my first actual day with people, not just other lifeguards for training, I was put at the bottom of the slide. I had expressed that morning that I have extreme anxiety, and that day was one of the worst days, so I was allowed to stay at the bottom of the slide and other lifeguards would skip over me during rotation. The slide I was working on had 2 staircases, one for single riders and one for double rides. Single riders have a single rider float, and double riders had space for 2. When the park gets busy, we would open up both staircases and sort them so that single riders would go up one staircase and double riders would go up another. In comes Karen. I'm going through the line, making sure that people are in the correct line because there's a double rider line and a single rider line. When I see Karen with her 2 kids, me, Miss, are you a single rider? Karen, no, I'm not riding. I'm just going to walk these 2 up the stairs to keep them safe. Me, oh, okay, no problem. I go back to asking people in the line to make sure they're in the right line. When it gets to be Karen's turn, she asks me for a float. At this point, I'm confused. Karen, yeah, I'm gonna go up there with them, but I wanted to ride down too. Me, then you're in the wrong line. You need to be in the single rider line. You're the manager here, right? Just give me the float. It's worth mentioning again that no, I am not the manager. This is literally my first day working here with actual people. Me, no, I'm not the manager. Well, obviously you are. You've been at this slide all day. I didn't bother trying to explain to her that I wasn't the manager, but instead tried to reason with her. Me, ma'am, you cannot just skip the entire single rider line. That would make the other riders unhappy. After this, she went off on some tangent, literally called me names. Mind you, this is a grown woman yelling at a kid. I was 16 at the time, but I definitely looked considerably younger. Another lifeguard in rotation saw that I was being yelled at and went to get the actual manager, who came to see me in tears, still being yelled at by this mother who thought she was entitled to a float. Security ended up escorting the woman out, and I was sent to the break room for a double break. My manager was a super nice lady and knew the anxiety struggle. Karen, be gone. Entitled Mother Refuses to Pay. So for about 3 years, I was between 12 and 15 years old. My dad owned a pub. I'm from the UK. And until my health got bad, I used to chip in the majority of the time cleaning, washing up, serving, waitressing, etc. So this story takes place when I was 14 on one of the busiest nights, Halloween. For those of you who don't know, Halloween is chaotic for pubs. Normally I would have stayed upstairs. My dad lived above the pub. Just minding my own business, sitting at my dad's desk sometimes answering calls for him, since he was downstairs helping the staff cope. However, on this day, one of our servers had called up saying they weren't going to be able to do their shift since their kid had become ill. This was understandable, these things happen. The shift they had was normally called the graveyard shift, midnight until we closed. Anyways, so there weren't many customers, right? So I could cover it. Wrong. Oh, I was so wrong. When I got downstairs to cover the shift, there were still loads of people, and this is where it began. I was taking the drink order of someone when entitled Mother walks in with Brat 1 and Brat 2. It was midnight, mind you. Brat 1 was about 4 years old and Brat 2 was 7. I saw them, made the mistake of making eye contact, and then went back to taking the customer's drink order. I asked nice customer, "So, you want 2 of these drinks, correct?" Nice customer, "Yes, thank you." Me, "All right, I'll add it to your bill." Already had 4 drinks between him and his buddy. Think, entitled mom starts screaming from the other side of the room.
Excuse me? Me and my babies are thirsty.
Yes, she actually said that. Me, "One moment and I'll take your order." I go to the bar and give the bartender nice customer's order. As his order is being prepared, I walk over to entitled mom and her brats. Me, "Hello, how may I?" Brat 1 cuts me off.
Give me a cola.
Me, a little annoyed. "1 cola, got it. Anything else?" Brat 2,
I need lemonade now.
Me, looking at the entitled mom. "And what would you like, ma'am?" Entitled mom, who was looking at her phone whilst her babies ordered.
Ugh, get me an.
Orders the most expensive beer we have, something like Stella, I can't remember too well. Me, "Okay, so you want?" I list their order. "Would you like to pay now or open a tab?" Entitled mom, looking at her phone.
I don't care. Tab.
Me, "Okay, I'll go get your drinks." I went up and gave the bartender her order and took nice customer's order to him. After about 3 minutes, her order of drinks were done and I brought them to her. Not moments after I set the pop on the table, she screamed.
What's this?
"That's your kids' drinks, ma'am."
Excuse me? I didn't order those for my babies.
Me, "Yes, but your kids ordered them. And when I read the order back, you didn't say anything, so I assumed you were okay with it." Entitled mom,
I wasn't listening. They're kids. Can't you see they're too young for pop?
Brat 1,
But mama, I want that drink. You said I could have anything I wanted. I know, baby, but pop isn't good for you. If you want something sweet, have your packet of wine gums.
For those of you who don't know, wine gums have one of the highest sugar contents of all sweets in the UK and are really bad to give kids. Then entitled mom turns her attention to me. Honestly, I wasn't expecting her to give me trouble and ask to swap the drinks out. Entitled customers have asked this before, and I guess it's what she meant. But entitled mom turning her attention to me.
Take the pop. I want 2 fruit shoots.
Me, "Okay, ma'am, I'll grab them now." With that, I took the pop to the bar, took the fruit shoots to her, and asked. Me, "Would you like your bill?" Entitled mom still looking at her phone while brats 1 and 2 are eating a huge bag of wine gums.
Yes.
Me, "Cash or card?"
Cash.
She then hands me a £10 note before I can even tell her that her tab is $11.60. She looks at me when I don't leave and snaps.
Why are you still here? Go get me my change.
Me, "Sorry, ma'am, but you still owe $1.60.
What do you mean I still owe money? I paid for my drink and my baby's fruit shoots.
Me, "But you still owe money for the pop your kids ordered." Now, normally I would have took the pop off the bill or let her only pay for 1 if she was a regular, or if she had something when they first ordered the drinks so we didn't make them. But she was so rude and her brats had made a mess of the table, leaving me with more cleaning up than I already had before. Entitled mom,
My babies didn't even drink the pop, so I don't have to pay for it.
I just looked at her, then spoke. Ma'am, in a firm tone, you owe $160. Pay up or I'm getting the owner. I was so done with her BS and wanted to cry out my frustrations, but I just gritted my teeth instead. Plus, my dad would be able to handle her much better than me.
Good. Then he'll explain why a kid thinks she knows better than an adult.
That was it. I had already dealt with one Karen that week, which meant I was on a short fuse. So when she said that, I was done with dealing with her. I grabbed my radio from my apron pocket. Everyone on duty had one. And spoke. Me into the radio. Dad, can you come to X section? I have a problem customer who won't pay all of her bill. Her face turned white when she realized she was in fact speaking to the owner's daughter. Before he could even come, she opened her purse, producing the money she owed, threw it on the table. It fell on the floor, picked up Brat 1, and stormed out with her brats. Barely touched her beer, but Brat 2 put the fruit shoots in their Halloween sweet bags. My dad came, asked where she was, and I explained. He let me and the bartender have the untouched pop and poured the beer away. He was proud of me for how I handled this one without him and how I didn't cry. The last Karen I dealt with brought me to tears, and my dad had to intervene. Always clear your memory card before pawning an item. A lady, who we'll call Leech, for reasons made clear at the end, spent a year helping her best friend, Psycho, harass my family and I over a custody dispute. Leech wasn't related to the family at all, just a friend with an affinity for causing drama. She would make fake profiles along with Psycho and tried to fish information about us out of friends and family. Just some real nasty stuff. Leech would take the online harassment further than Psycho, which never made any sense to me because I never had a personal problem with Leech. We had known each other back in grade school and were even casual friends. She used our past history to try to weasel into my friends list, but I already saw that she was helping Psycho slander my name online and didn't buy into her malarkey. She then tried copying my display pictures and making them into ugly memes. Any post I made public was instantly captured and mocked on her stepmother's support page. Leech was dating the best friend of Psycho's husband. Her boyfriend had a daughter from a previous relationship, and Leech was a proud and attentive stepmother. Most of her identity revolved around being a stepmother. The page on which she posted the memes she made and posts she stole had been running for a number of years and had nearly 10,000 members. She created it herself. She and Psycho also started a handful of other pages for the sole purpose of harassing and mocking us. A couple I had to have legally removed. Police were involved in everything. This had been going on since before March, and for Christmas that year, my wife's grandmother got each of the great-grandkids a 3DS. To save some money, she went to a pawn shop for some gently used consoles and games. This is where karma had dealt us a sweet hand. Nana had purchased 4 3DS in total. The one my daughter just happened to get had a memory card inside full of photos. Upon a quick scan, I realized the people looked familiar. It was Leech and her boyfriend. Over and over, dozens of photos, some a little sketchy. Why else would I be given this opportunity? Of course, I was meant to use them, right? I immediately get to work, uploading every photo and file and set up a fake email account with bits of her information to make it look like hers. I joined any and all free dating sites I could think of, even downloaded some apps that aren't advertised as dating, but we all know that's how they are used. In short, I plastered her selfies everywhere. I refrained from using the inappropriate ones because I just didn't feel right about that. Implied loose morals was as far as I wanted to take it. I answered a couple of messages on each site to make it look more authentic, even sharing more innocent enough selfies to prove I was the real deal. A while ago, I had come across Leech's cell number online. She had shared it in a public comment, and I was in the process of screen capping any post she made about my family. I had screen capped that comment too, but hadn't done anything with it. I was just gathering and retaining all the information I could, and my patience was about to pay off. After giving a few guys the number, I didn't bother logging on anymore. That was enough damage, I thought. It would be easy for her to prove that she had never visited those sites, and that they should be able to recognize the photos as being taken with the crappy lens of an early 3DS. But then the other boot dropped. After a few weeks, maybe a month, I go snooping on Leech's stepmother's support page to see if she had anything to say about my antics, but it was quiet. Weird. I check out her profile and find all her past posts have been hidden, and the boyfriend scrubbed all photos available. When I check out his profile, there's this gigantic rant about unfaithful people. Oops. Turns out, Leach had been with her boyfriend's best friends, the guy Psycho was married to's older brother. It had been going on for some time, and no one knew anything, not even Psycho. If the boyfriend hadn't confronted her about the random texts she was getting from guys, he never would have seen the other texts that were clearly disguised to hide what was going on. Being a self-proclaimed stay-at-home stepmom, he had visitation every other weekend and 2 weeks in the summer. Leach had no interest in holding a job. The boyfriend owned and paid for everything, including her cell phone. When he found out about this, he kicked her out of the house and took her phone. He pawned it off to pay for the enormous debt that she had put him in. The reason the 3DS was in the pawn shop at all was because he needed some extra cash. It was his 3DS, and he had pawned it for some money for a present for her. He wasn't able to pay it back in time, and the shop owner resold the item. That's why the memory card wasn't wiped or anything. I'd say it was meant to be. You already have kids. You should give me one. This is the most manipulative and ugly, classist person I've ever met. She's married to my uncle. Let's call her Mary. Mary has pulled a lot of entitled stunts over the course of her life. I probably have over 100 stories that I can share that I know of. I don't talk to that part of the family because it's horrible, but there are a few family gatherings in which we meet. Good old Mary is infertile. She has 2 daughters. One was conceived in vitro and then introduced into her womb. The other one popped out of nowhere, literally. We suspect she bought it out from someone since she has a record of trying this, but whatever. Before having her first daughter, when I was around 10 years old, my mom broke the news to the family that she was pregnant. Yay! Mary wasn't happy with this because she had been trying for years with her husband and wasn't able to get pregnant. She always had this sort of competition with my mom and with everyone because she has this need of being the best one in everything. She must have the most money, the most expensive clothes, being more successful in her career, having the happiest marriage, going to the most exotic places. But she wasn't the best. She was the only one with no kids out of the 7 siblings of the family, and she was also one of the oldest wives. So imagine her jealousy when the youngest one was going to have her second kid while her and her husband were still child-free. So she pulled my mother aside one day and told her, "You know, it isn't fair that you can get pregnant before us. It wasn't fair for you to have OP before your brother since he's older than you. But whatever. But you know, we've been trying for years now, and we're just exhausted. And we're not comfortable with trying those artificial methods, nor having a baby without our blood. So, since you're family, and we know you are not in a financial position to take care of another baby right now, what would you say if I offered to pay for everything pregnancy-related, and after the baby is born, I would pay you an amount for keeping it as your brother's and I's baby?" Of course, my mom said no. She told me roughly how the proposition went years later, but only because I was the one that found out why she was so pushy about buying my brother. Because this wasn't just a one-time thing. She tried constantly to convince my parents to sell them my brother throughout the next 5 months, and even for some months after he was born. You see, my father is a son of immigrants. He has a European bloodline and is very handsome. Mary also has a need of proving to everyone that she has royal blood, and aesthetics are everything to her. Hence the need to show herself as the best of the best in every aspect of her life, and she will not hesitate to do anything to achieve her goal of being the perfect woman with the perfect life. This includes pretending she has white genes. She doesn't. We live in a very heavily mixed-race country. She was born in one of the least developed states in a humble family in a small town, with only town people that have been working under the sun for generations, so all of them are darker. She married my uncle, who comes from a family that has lived in an island for generations and who is also the darkest one of all the siblings. There is no way she is going to have a baby who is white. But my mom is one of the most light-skinned between her siblings, and she married my dad, who has Italian and Polish genes. And I was born with very pale skin and smooth hair. Mary's and her husband's hair are what we describe as bad hair. Not in an offensive way, but that's how it's called here. It's basically super twisted and thick hair. There was a big chance my brother was going to be born European looking. You already know where this is going, right? One day, I was minding my own business while in their daughter's birthday party, and I happened to wander close to where Mary was talking with someone. Didn't know her. And I heard how she openly complained about how her daughter looked and how she wished she managed to convince my mom and dad to just give her their baby. There was more said, but I can't remember it all. And yes, my uncle approves of her behavior and patronizes it. My son needs to sit here. Okay, so I'll give you some backstory before I start. My aunt passed away a year ago. This happened at the funeral. So I was sitting in the room where the casket was resting. I was sitting in a chair away from everyone else, and my dad was sitting in the same style chair I was a couple feet away. So this was before the service had started, and kids were playing around and running around. It was a pretty big room, and I understand that they're just kids and don't really know any better. So one kid was tired and wanted to sit in my chair. This was the entitled Brad.
Hi, I'm really tired and need to sit down. Can I sit in that chair?
Me. No, I was here first, and I'm waiting for the service to start. Entitled Brat started throwing a tantrum and really wanted to sit in my chair. Entitled Mom eventually heard her son crying and throwing a tantrum and came over to investigate. Entitled Mom.
Why are you crying?
Entitled Brat.
This boy won't let me sit in his chair. I'm really tired and need some rest.
He continues crying.
Why won't you let him sit in your chair?
Me. I was sitting here first, ma'am, and I'm waiting for the service to start.
Well, I think my son needs to sit in that chair.
Me. No, I was here first. I'm not going to give your son a chair for him to rest in. Your son should be more respectful, along with all the other kids. This is not a playground.
Well, I bet you didn't even personally know
my aunt's name. I was severely offended by this statement, and my dad came over to see what the fuss was about. Dad, what's going on over here?
Your brat won't let my son sit in that chair.
Me. I was super angry and fired back. First of all, I'm 17 and far from a brat. Your son is the one who is a spoiled little brat. Dad, my son was sitting here first, and you have no right to offend my son like that, referring to when she said I didn't know my own aunt. Entitled Mom.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were related to her.
Eventually, my aunt's daughter came over and asked her to leave because she was causing a scene.
Okay, I will. I didn't want to go to this stupid funeral anyways.
Entitled Brat suddenly then hit me and blew a raspberry at me and started laughing. So I stood up over Entitled Brat and scared him. Then him and his mother stormed out of the funeral home. My aunt's daughter was furious. I wanted to hit Entitled Brat so bad, but I couldn't because that wouldn't have been right. Anyways, after that, the funeral was actually really good, and we told stories about my aunt's life, and it was a good time. Entitled Mom and Baby demand my new 4K PC. So I was friends with a kid from my school. I thought he was a nice kid, but as soon as he saw my new PC, he became a begging brat. We've got me, we've got Entitled Mom, we've got begging brat, we've got Mom, Dad, and nice dad. So lockdown was going to be issued in a few weeks. So I invited a few of my closest friends around and their parents, as they were friends with mine. I have wanted a gaming PC for the past 3 years, and I finally got enough money to buy it. My dad wasn't exactly happy, but he realized that I had wanted it for a while and would need a PC for online lessons. So I hopped onto Amazon and bought my PC. Now on to the story. We invited the friends and parents over for a nice dinner. It was meant to be a nice gathering, and the majority decided on KFC. But no, Baby wanted McDonald's. The Baby and Entitled Mom were begging for all of us to have McDonald's. Like, jerk, we invited you to be nice, and this is how you repay us? We all said no, and we had KFC. During dinner, the parts for my PC arrived. I was so excited that I devoured my food and rushed upstairs to build it. My friends came up, and since they all like PCs too, we all worked on it together. One person did the RAM, another did the CPU, you get the idea. So it was finished, and everyone left. The Entitled Mom, nice dad, and Baby stayed behind, as they were good friends with my parents. Entitled Mom.
So, Baby told me that OP got a new PC.
Mom. Yeah, he's been wanting it for 3 years now, and he needs it for school. Baby.
Mom, I want a new PC.
Since I had some form of friendship with this kid, I told him that he could have a PC. Brad.
Really?
Me. Yeah, sure. Entitled Mom.
Thank you so much for being so kind.
Brad.
Let's go get it.
Me. I'll bring it down for you. I brought him my old PC. Like I said, it was bad, but could run most games at 60 frames per second, 720p. I fitted some RGB fans to disguise the looks, so if anyone came and saw it, they wouldn't know how bad it was. However, it was considerably smaller. Baby noticed. Brad,
Your PC is much bigger than that.
me, I know.
So, where is it?
Here,
No, you said you would give me your new PC.
me, no. I said I would give you a PC, and this is my old one. It runs all modern games at 720p 60. Brad,
No, I want the new one.
entitled mom walks in.
What's all the shouting about?
Brad,
OP won't give me his PC.
OP, you said you would give him your new PC. No, I said I would give him a PC, and this is the one I'm giving him. I've been saving up for 3 years and won't just give it away.
But you're like 12.
You're too old for this PC. Keep in mind that baby was 11 and she claims to be such good friends with my family when I'm 15. Dad, what's going on? Me,
They are demanding.
he has traumatized my son after lying to him. He said he would give him his new PC. Dad, OP, why are you giving your new PC away? Me, I'm not. I told baby that he could have my old one, and now he's demanding my new one. Dad, to entitled mom, yeah, that's not going to happen.
How dare you? He is only 12. He is too young.
Note, my family aren't really famous, but people know us as we are constantly donating a lot of money to help our park and things like that. Dad, don't try and impress people by saying you are a friend when you don't even know my son's age. Nice dad. Entitled mom, stop. You always do this, and baby, be grateful or don't take it at all. Baby and entitled mom, fine. They storm out of the house. Nice dad. Sorry about that, as he hands me 40 pounds. Me, it's okay, and thank you. We cut contact with the entitled mom and baby, but my dad still goes to the pub sometimes with nice dad. No, I'm not the manager. So this was a few years ago, so the details are a little fuzzy. Backstory before we start. I'm a male with a shaved head and a neat goatee. I was working overnights at a hotel, and my uniform was a suit and tie. I have a gold name tag with my name and no logo. I needed to pick up a few things at Walgreens after work, and being right across the street, I'm a regular there, and I'm on a first-name basis with a few of the employees. Cast includes, not real names. We've got me, we've got Bob, the cashier, Maria, actual manager, and the Karen. I walk in at about 10 a.m. and immediately pass by Bob and Maria with the usual, "Morning, Maria. Morning, Bob. Busy morning?" Just a little small talk since I'm there enough and they can vent to me, being a regular. I notice it's a little busy, so I leave them to work and go to the food section to grab a snack and see that a guest has pulled all of the cans of something off the shelf. Being a decent human being, I put them back, and Karen asks where the paper towels were, and I tell her where they are. Again, being there nearly every day, and they were busy. I get what I need and go up to the register. Karen is in front of me and in the middle of a screaming match with Bob and Maria. Karen,
Get the manager, now. There are no cans that will expire next month. They are all expiring this month.
Maria, yes ma'am, I am the manager. I'm very sorry, but the shipment comes in tomorrow, and we can even set some aside for you.
Stop lying, you stupid jerk. I was just talking to the manager.
It is at this point Karen turns to see me and with a polite,
Excuse me, sir. Can you give me a discount on this can?
me, ma'am, I don't work here. I'm just shopping.
You were putting cans away. Don't lie to me. Now give me a discount.
Bob, ma'am, he is a guest. Karen proceeded to take her can, threw it hard at me. It misses, and shows us her favorite finger as she yells and storms out of the store. The cops were called since there was destruction of property, and the funny part of this story is the cops show up and immediately come up to me thinking I'm the manager. Ended up taking my information, and Maria paid for my $2 bag of chips. Still went there every single day, and I was always greeted with a, "Hey boss man," every time I went in. My Russian friend versus Karen. So I currently work at a McDonald's as I am an entitled young person. You'll figure out why I quoted that. This McDonald's is across from a Walmart, and today I decided to take a shift for someone. A good solid 8-hour shift actually. Anyway, after work I decided to get some food for dinner and snacks for later at the Walmart. Everything is fine and dandy, and everyone seemed to be in a good mood. Since I just got out of work, I was still in my uniform. Both our McDonald's uniforms and Walmart uniforms use pretty much the same pants, or at least everyone in my Walmart uses the same pants as us at McDonald's here. The pants are just some black basic pants that are made of polyester and some other material, so they look nice. It was also a rainy day, so everyone was wearing sweaters and whatnot because it wasn't ideal to go outside in this weather. After grabbing dinner and snacks, I leave the store to go meet a really close friend who was waiting to pick me up outside. I load the snacks into the back of my car, and my friend asked me if I got my cousin a birthday present because it was his birthday yesterday. Unfortunately, I forgot, so I run in and grab a $50 Xbox gift card for him. Coming back out, I hear someone say,
"Hey, you!"
And even though it was rainy and windy, I could tell it was a snobby-directed tone, a Karen tone. I continue walking to the car, and at this point, I hear a click of her high heels and the voice again, just a lot louder, and, unfortunately, the voice got louder too. This Karen was behind me and calling for me. She gets right up in my face, and in a really violent tone said,
"Excuse me, you better put my cart away, you little jerk."
I reply with a shy and quiet, "I don't work here." This is mainly because I'm small and short and petite, and this Karen is yelling at me. I also don't have good social skills. The Karen blurps out another,
"Put my cart away, tiny."
Yeah, I know. I was called tiny by a Karen. Thank God my friend was watching because she got out of the car and was like, "She doesn't work at Walmart." The Karen scoffs and replies back,
"He looks like he does. Besides, he's a young person. He can go put that cart away anyway."
My friend walked over to this Karen and was like, "He is a she, and she doesn't work here. She's also not your slave, regardless of their age or anything." My friend raises her voice way higher than this Karen, who's bickering on how hard it is to push a cart away. Ironic, I know. And screams out, "You better take your stupid, lousy, no good, overprivileged self over there to that cart return yourself, and you're going to put it there." The Karen just shut up and put the cart away. The Karen was about to open her mouth and say something, but my friend just screamed something at her, which basically meant, "Go forget yourself," or something like that in Russian. That was that. My friend told me she was getting the last word in regardless. We drove off and went home to eat dinner and hang out. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.